However, perhaps because it had absorbed a drop of his golden blood, these blood sword grasses showed no hostility towards Yang Kai. Even if Yang Kai passed through them, they didn't react at all. But except for Yang Kai, any living creature that entered this field would instantly be assailed and their bodies sliced apart. The sharp golden blades of grass seemed to give off a cold light that made any who saw it shudder. After this unexpected development, Yang Yan adjusted her attitude and immediately arranged a spirit array around the blood swordgrass region, preparing to turn it into a restricted area and even using these blood swordgrasses to create a huge trap. With such a field of blood swordgrass, even if an origin-returning realm master that broke into it did not die, they would surely be severely injured. 3 days after Yang Kai returned, Shadow Moon Hall's Qian Tong personally brought Wei Guchang and Dong Xianer to Dragon Cave Mountain to confirm that Yang Kai had really returned safely. Qian Tong also learned from Wei Guchang that in the Flowing Flame Sandfield, Yang Kai had saved his and Dong Xianer's lives. So now, regardless of any other intentions he had towards Yang Kai, just this grace was enough for Qian Tong to be genuinely grateful towards him. Wei Guchang and Dong Xianer were the most talented disciples of Shadow Moon Hall's younger generation. If the two of them had fallen in the Flowing Flame Sand field, the loss would have been immeasurable. No one asked why Yang Kai only returned so long after the Flowing Flame Sand field had closed, all of them just vaguely guessing that Yang Kai had run into some other kind of opportunity. In this way, Qian Tong was even more optimistic about Yang Kai and his attitude became friendlier. On top of that, Dragon Cave Mountain and Shadow Moon Hall were cooperating closely now. Yang Yan and the others had continued to purchase a massive amount of materials from Shadow Moon Hall, allowing Shadow Moon Hall to gain a hefty profit. So, for various reasons, Qian Tong now regarded Dragon Cave Mountain as a partner and ally. As they chatted, Yang Kai learned from Qian Tong that about the gains and losses the major forces on Shadowed Star had after the opening of the Flowing Flame field. More than 10,000 cultivators had originally entered the Flowing Flame Sand field, but less than 70% of them had returned safely. The various forces losing 30 to 40% of their elite disciples was nothing less than tragic. Although this kind of loss saddened every force greatly, the harvests brought back by their surviving disciples were enough to make up for the loss. Almost everyone had some gains, and this was especially true of those sect's disciples who managed to obtain a piece of the red candle fruit, and all of them received rich rewards from their respective sects. The appearance of the red candle fruit set out a great storm on Shadowed Star. Several alchemy grandmasters from Medicine Pill sect had frequently run out to visit the various forces which had obtained pieces of this heaven-defying spirit fruit, offering vast amounts of money and even free pill refinements to acquire these red candle fruit pieces. But no one felt relieved handing over this incredible treasure to another, even if the other party were Medicine Pill sect. So after running about for half a year, the alchemy grandmasters of Medicine Pill sect could only return in defeat. This was probably the first time that the major forces on Shadowed Star had refused to give face to the Medicine Pill sect, and this incident caused quite a bit of disturbance for half a year. There were even several traitors in Shadow Moon Hall who attempted to steal the red candle fruit piece, all of whom were exposed and executed. The situation in the other sects which obtained a piece of the red candle fruit was roughly the same, but after half a year, these disturbances gradually subsided. As for how the major sects decided to deal with those red candle fruit pieces, no one knew. After talking about this, Yang Kai took the opportunity to ask Qian Tong a lot of questions about the Saint King realm and how one should cultivate. Qian Tong did not conceal anything and freely shared his cultivation experience with Yang Kai as Wei Guchang, Dong Xianer, and many of the others listened attentively nearby. Half a day later, Qian Tong and his party left. Before leaving, Wei Guchang and Dong Xianer told Yang Kai that after they returned to the sect, they would enter retreat to break through to the origin-returning realm. Both had experienced growth in the Flowing Flame Sandfield, so now was the best time for them to attempt a breakthrough. Yang Kai knew in his heart that if they were not waiting for news of his safe return, they would have entered retreat long ago, and it was only because of their concern for his well-being that they had actually missed their best opportunity to break through. However, despite being aware of the truth, Yang Kai did not bring it up. Before Dong Xianer left, she suddenly wore a mysterious smile, leaned over to Yang Kai, and whispered, "Senior brother Yang, Big Sister Dai Yuan repeatedly sent messages to me over the past 6 months asking about your situation. Unfortunately, you had not shown up all this time, so I could not give her any exact news. Now that you have returned safely, though, I'm sure Big Sister Dai Yuan will feel more at ease. Dai Yuan. Yang Kai froze for a moment as an extremely ugly face flashed across his thoughts, his expression suddenly becoming weird. Why would she be so concerned about him? Although the time they had spent together was not long, Yang Kai could feel that with Dai Yuan's personality, it would be impossible for her to care so much about his well-being for no reason. Moreover, when they separated in the 4th layer, Dai Yuan seemed to want to say something to him but had stopped herself, piquing Yang Kai's interest. She had also said at that time that she would come to say her thanks personally, and now it seemed she was not just speaking politely. While Yang Kai was contemplating this issue, Wei Guchong could not help chuckling, apparently misunderstanding what was going on and what had happened between Yang Kai and Dai Yuan in the flowing flame sand field. Yang Kai did not bother trying to explain. Forget about the fact that there was really nothing between him and Dai Yuan. Even if Dai Yuan was an incredibly beautiful woman, Yang Kai wouldn't have been moved by her. He had seen many beauties in his life, and since entering the star field, only 2 had always been on his mind, so he didn't have any thoughts about womanizing. Dong Xian'er suddenly bit her lip and whispered softly, "Actually, Big Sister Dai Yuan isn't what she seems." After leaving this perfectly unclear statement behind, Dong Xian'er hurriedly caught up with Wei Guchong, who had gone on ahead. Only Yang Kai remained standing there, having no clue what Dong Xian'er wanted to say. After not being able to figure anything out for a while, Yang Kai simply shook his head wryly and returned to his cave mansion. Over the next month, Yang Kai refined a large number of pills before calling Yang Yen and Wu Yi over and informing them that he would be entering retreat for a period of time, and if it wasn't something serious, not to disturb him. All other matters regarding Dragon Cave Mountain would be up to them to decide. As for the pills he had refined, Yang Kai naturally handed them over to the pair to let them distribute. There were a massive number of pills, and many of them were designed to assist with cultivation. With these pills to assist them, everyone in Dragon Cave Mountain should be able to quickly increase their strength. Yang Yen and Wu Yi quickly nodded. Immediately after they left, Yang Kai entered his stone room and went into secluded retreat. He had too many things to do, such as seeing if the flowing flame-flying fires could enhance the power of his conflagrated knowledge, refining the dragon bone and dragon bead, studying the demon blood thread technique, and consolidating his newly promoted second-order Saint King cultivation. Each of these tasks was time-consuming and not something that could be accomplished in just a day or 2. However, in order to refine the dragon bone and dragon bead, Yang Kai first had to fully refine the artifact refining furnace. Yang Yen is right, one had to sharpen their tools before gonna work. Yang Kai had to thoroughly refine the Origin King Grade artifact refining furnace first, in order to save himself a great deal of time in refining the dragon bone and dragon bead. Moreover, this artifact refining furnace had an artifact spirit, so it could also be used as an offensive artifact. After carefully sorting out the things he needed to do, Yang Kai got to work. The first thing he did was to refine the artifact refining furnace. Although in the Earthlung Fire Pond, he had subdued the artifact spirit, doing so and refining the artifact refining furnace were 2 different things and could not be confused. However, conquering the artifact spirit would help him refine the artifact refining furnace more efficiently. Taking out the artifact refining furnace and placing it in front of himself, Yang Kai closed his eyes and poured his Saint Qi into it, covering the furnace in his demonic flame, allowing his aura to soak into it. Time passed by slowly, but cultivation knew no years, and in a flash 6 months had gone by. Yang Kai had not once left his stone room since he entered this retreat, and no one knew what he was doing inside. Even Changqi and Howen, who both successfully broke through to the origin realm inside the cave mansion, did not see Yang Kai when they emerged. The 2 of them had taken an origin condensing pill each, and with the assistance of the 10,000-year incense and 9-branch jade crystal tree, they broke through without any difficulties, emerging from their respective stone rooms only half a month after they entered. After their breakthrough to the origin returning realm, Shadow Moon Hall actually sent over some information about the origin returning realm to help them cultivate, causing Changqi and Howen to become overjoyed. Both had originally belonged to a small family force and obviously didn't have access to such valuable materials, But taking Yang Kai's face into consideration, Qian Tong had actually taken the initiative to assist them. Naturally, the two of them were extremely grateful and soon returned to their own houses to enter retreat and study the mysteries of Sure that only origin-returning realm cultivators could comprehend. After half a year, everything in Dragon Cave Mountain remained in good order, with Wu Yi handling most of the administrative tasks, such as the relationship with Shadow Moon Hall, while Yang Yan remained in charge of arranging the various spirit arrays and barriers that protected Dragon Cave Mountain, improving its defense once again. As for the cultivators originally from the Haiku family, all of them were immersing themselves in their own cultivation. If not for Yang Yan needed to continuously perform artifact refining and arranging spirit arrays to unlock the knowledge in her mind, with Dragon Cave Mountain's current state, there was not really any need for anyone to do anything other than cultivate. Over the past 6 months, Yang Kai had also completely consolidated his cultivation. After refining 2 drops of profounding sunflower water, his realm has risen to the peak of the second-order Saint King realm, and now that his foundation was stabilized, as long as he could prepare appropriately, he could attempt to break through to the third-order Saint King realm. The artifact refining furnace had also been completely refined by him. After refining the artifact refining furnace, the Firebird artifact spirit could even freely enter and exit Yang Kai's body, and no longer need to perch on his shoulder as it had before. This little thing and the stone puppet seemed to have an inborn dislike of one another, and every time they met they would get into a fight. For the first time, Yang Kai understood that the stone puppet's combat effectiveness was not to be underestimated. Its natural armor was not afraid of the artifact spirit's intense flames, and though it looked lumbering and awkward, once it began fighting, its speed was actually quite astonishing. If not for the artifact spirit being able to fly, the stone puppet would not have been any less nimble. Regardless of this though, every battle the stone puppet and artifact spirit fought ended with a tie, neither one able to defeat the other. During this past half a year, the artifact spirit and stone puppet fought at least a dozen times, and each time ended with a draw. Yang Kai was naturally too lazy to manage them though, and never intervened in their fights. These two eventually seemed to form a bond through these battles and would sometimes get together and seemingly discuss something. In addition to consolidating his second-order Saint King cultivation and refining the artifact refining furnace, Yang Kai also began refining the dragon bone and dragon bead. Yang Kai had placed the dragon bone and dragon bead into the artifact refining furnace, then took the artifact refining furnace into his body. This way, even if Yang Kai didn't deliberately refine it, the artifact spirit could use Yang Kai's Saint Qi and its own purifier attribute energy to actuate the artifact refining furnace and continuously refine the dragon bone and dragon bead. However, these two treasures were worthy of being materials from a true dragon. The artifact spirit had been refining them for 2 months already, yet there was not much progress, with only a slight bit of Yang Kai's aura penetrating them. It seemed that if he wanted to completely refine them this way, it would take at least 4 or 5 years. Only if Yang Kai consciously mobilized his Saint Qi in combination with the artifact refining furnace would it be possible to speed up the process. However, Yang Kai was not in a hurry and instead took this opportunity to learn, studying the demon blood thread technique given to him by Deng Ning. Originally, Yang Kai had simply wanted this technique to have an excuse to deal with Yi Yang Rong, while also making sure that Deng Ning wouldn't betray him. He did not have any expectations for the secret technique at all. But during the month he used to return to Dragon Cave Mountain, Yang Kai discovered that this demon blood thread was actually an amazing technique and suited his cultivation perfectly. This greatly shocked Yang Kai. Demon Blood Temple was an extremely evil force, which put it in opposition to many forces on Shadowed Star. On top of that, it had a small internal war every 5 years and a big one every 10. The only reason why this sect had yet to be destroyed was actually thanks to this demon blood thread technique. The elders and protectors of Demon Blood Temple all cultivated this mysterious technique, and when using it to fight others could often display shocking and unpredictable power. As such, most people intentionally avoided finding trouble with Demon Blood Temple and decided that, so long as they didn't provoke us, we would do the same, allowing Demon Blood Temple to endure through the years. But if one wanted to cultivate this secret technique, they needed to use their own blood essence as a foundation. A cultivator's blood essence was extremely precious, and once used in battle it would severely damage their foundation. It could be said that after using a single drop of blood essence, a cultivator would need to spend several months to years to restore themselves. But Demon Blood Temple had created this Demon Blood Thread technique which allowed one to use their blood essence in combat without seriously harming themselves. Once cultivated successfully and used against an enemy, an individual's combat power would soar because the Demon Blood Thread was condensed from one's own powerful blood essence. On top of that, it would be incredibly flexible to use because it was closely tied to one's life and vitality, making it like an artifact yet not one at the same time. Blood essence was also precious to Xianxia and he dared not use it easily. But golden blood was something he could spare. Additionally, his golden blood contained an immense amount of vitality, which made it perfectly suited as a base material to cultivate this demon blood thread. When Xianxia realized this, he was barely able to contain his joy, and from that point on he had been thinking about the pros and cons of cultivating this demon blood thread constantly. Only recently had he decided to try it out. With this secret technique, the more blood essence one used, the stronger the demon blood thread they would be able to condense, and the more power it would be able to display. This secret technique was simply tailored for Xianxia. How could he just give up on it? Currently, when he found himself against enemies, Xianxia mainly relied on his 9 Heavens divine skills and his own ability to control Saint Qi. This resulted in a certain lack of variety in his combat abilities though. If he could successfully cultivate the Demon Blood Thread technique though, he could greatly broaden the scope of his offensive and defensive skills. Successfully cultivating this secret technique would give Xianxia a big boost in strength. On top of that, the Demon Blood Thread he cultivated would undoubtedly be stronger than the Demon Blood Thread a Demon Blood Temple disciple could produce, because the root of this secret technique was blood essence, and his golden blood was far stronger than any Demon Blood Temple disciple's blood essence. Xianxia had actually spent most of his time during this 6-month retreat cultivating the Demon Blood Thread technique and was now showing some signs of reaching his minor accomplishment stage. Inside the stone room, with a single though, Xianxia condensed a tiny golden filament at the tip of his finger. This golden filament seemed like a radiant silk thread and could stretch to several tens of meters in length. Under the control of Xianxia's divine sense, this golden thread flickered back and forth, making a slicing noise as it seemingly cut through the air, like Xianxia was whirling around a thin golden whip. Experimenting with the power of this demon blood thread, Xianxia was quite satisfied. After all, it was something that cost him a drop of golden blood to cultivate. On top of that, it was able to display this much power after only partially comprehending the technique. If Xianxia were to fully master this technique, its power would increase greatly. This was a single demon blood thread. If Xianxia was able to cultivate several dozens of them, he could hardly imagine how difficult it would be for his enemies to contend with. Xianxia realized that the master who created this demon blood thread was a true genius, thinking up a way to use his own blood essence to create a pseudo-artifact. However, the creator of this technique probably never imagined someone like Xianxia would exist in this world who would be able to condense demon blood threads using his golden blood. If given enough time, Xianxia would surely be able to bring this demon blood thread to a new height. However, this thing couldn't really be called a demon blood thread any longer. It was more appropriate to call it a golden blood thread. Xianxia grinned and took back this golden blood thread into his body before continuing to cultivate. During this period, Xianxia also refined space spirit crystals to enhance his space force. 3 more months passed, but Xianxia still showed no signs of exiting his retreat. Thankfully, Dragon Cave Mountain did not need him to do anything, so there was no problem with him remaining in retreat. On this day, as Xianxia was cultivating his golden blood thread technique, his expression suddenly changed, and his eyes opened in surprise. Immediately closing his eyes again, Xianxia sent his consciousness into the black book space where he quickly manifested his soul avatar. After seeing the scene in front of him, what Xianxia was about to say was swallowed back down his throat, and he instead stared dumbfounded at the tree exuding a potent Yang attribute aura. This big tree was none other than the divine tree which had been taken into the black book space by Xianxia many years ago. Some time ago, it had swallowed 2 drops of Xianxia's golden blood before falling into a deep sleep to undergo an evolution. Now, 3 years later, it had woken up and sent Xianxia a message, resulting in the latter sending his soul avatar into the black book space. The divine tree's new appearance was a little strange though. Yang Kai remembered that it had been a towering tree before its evolution, with dense leaves atop its crown and rich yang attribute energy coursing through its body. But now, after this most recent evolution was completed, it had become several times smaller, only about 20 meters in height or so. All of its branches and leaves now had a dazzling golden light about them, appearing quite eye-catching. Among its leaves, there were also some small longan-sized fruits. If these fruits were mature, they would surely be a great supplement for people like Yang Kai, but it was obviously they had only just begun budding. What surprised Yang Kai the most, though, were not these changes, but rather the face which appeared at the center of the divine tree's trunk. It was a very strange face, with eyes, a nose, a mouth, but no eyebrows. On top of that, this face was quite large and appeared somewhat wrinkled, like that of an old man on both sides of its trunk. There were even two forks-like arms with branches sticking out that gave the appearance of fingers. At first glance, though, it was obvious that the divine tree's 2 arms and 2 hands contained great power. The divine tree's roots had also transformed into a large number of tentacles which were supporting its huge body, as if it had grown countless long legs. When Yang Kai came in, the divine tree seemed to be adapting to its own changes, and its tentacles were moving slowly as it walked about the black book space. After noticing that Yang Kai had come in, it immediately stood still, turned its 2 huge eyes towards him, and seemingly smiled. "You?" Yang Kai looked at it in amazement, not knowing what to say for a while. "There's no need for concern." What made Yang Kai even more surprised was that the divine tree spoke to him. However, the voice it used was quite loud and somewhat hoarse. It seemed that this was its first time speaking, and it was not quite used to it yet. In the past, the divine tree had communicated with Yang Kai exclusively through divine sense messages. This was the first time Yang Kai heard its voice, causing him to stare blankly again for a moment. After a long pause, the divine tree continued, "Although I do not quite understand why I've become like this after my evolution, I can feel that it is a good thing. It seems that your golden blood has helped me a lot, helping me grow into something different from what I used to be." Yang Kai heard this and finally felt a bit relieved, asking with some concern, "Is nothing wrong?" "Nothing at all. I feel wonderful, actually." The divine tree's voice gradually became clearer, as if after speaking a few words it had begun to master the trick to communicating verbally. As it spoke, it also began slowly walking about the black book space again. "If there is anything wrong, I feel that this place is no longer suitable for me to remain in. It's quite empty and no longer conducive to my growth." Yang Kai was startled for a moment but immediately understood what was going on. Before the divine tree's latest evolution, it could only be regarded as a sentient world spirit treasure, so there was no problem with it remaining inside the black book space. But now, it had evolved into a kind of living unique life form, resulting in the black book space no longer being appropriate for it to live in. It may be fine for a while, but if it stayed in this space for too long and was no longer able to adapt to the outside world's principles, and it may result in some unpleasant consequences. Withering away was also not out of the question. If that were to happen, Yang Kai would be at fault. Considering all this, Yang Kai apologized. "I've wronged you all these years. When I brought you out from that mysterious small world, I promised that I would find a place for you to settle down. But after so many years, I've constantly been running around and failed to find anywhere for you to roam about freely." The divine tree heard him say this and waved its giant hands slowly. "I know. Don't worry about it." And Yang Kai nodded gently before suddenly grinning. "But things are different now. I finally have a place where you can put down roots. If you want, I can let you out now. If I ever leave this place in the future, I can take you with me again at that time, of course, if that's what you want." The divine tree stopped in place and turned to Yang Kai with a look of expectation upon its withered face. "I can go out?" It seems that it missed the sunshine of the outside world after being stuck in the black book space for so long. And Yang Kai nodded repeatedly. "Then I'd like to go out. If you ever leave this place, of course I'll go with you." After discussing it properly, Yang Kai immediately walked out of his cave mansion and found it was fairly quiet outside. The several dozen former Haiku family disciples seemed to be cultivating independently, and even Changqi and Howen were nowhere to be seen. Seeing Yang Kai emerge from the cave, Many people were surprised, but they quickly offered polite greetings. Although they separated from the Haiku family in order to follow Wu Yi, they all knew who the true master of this place was. "Where's Yang Yan?" Yang Kai turned his head and looked around but was not able to find any trace of Yang Yan. Even using his divine sense, he couldn't detect her or Wu Yi's presence. Lady Yang Yan and young lady went to Black Sea City together. One of the sharper cultivators quickly replied. Black Sea City? Why did they go there? What force controls that city? Yang Kai was surprised. Black Sea City is under the jurisdiction of Clear Sky Sect. The two young ladies went there to participate in Treasure Trove Pavilion's auction. Another auction? Yang Kai raised a brow and showed a puzzled look. The cultivator quickly explained, and after listening to his explanation, Yang Kai realized what was going on. The last time there was an auction, Yang Kai had brought many good things to sell, drawing the attention of Treasure Trove Pavilion's Yen Pei. As such, before this auction, he had sent Chen Tong a personal invitation to deliver to Yang Kai. Dragon Cave Mountain also happened to be lacking St. Crystals to purchase materials, so Yang Yan had taken several artifacts she had recently refined to auction in hopes of raising some funds. After learning this, Yang Kai frowned. Yang Yan spent St. Crystals far too quickly. He had brought back millions of St. Crystal and a massive amount of materials less than a year ago, yet that all seemed to have been exhausted by her already. Yang Kai was not upset about this though, as Yang Yan wasn't wasting any of these St. Crystals or materials. All of it went into enhancing Dragon Cave Mountain's protection. What Yang Kai cared about was that auctioning off artifacts like this was not a good long-term way to raise St. Crystals. Yang Yan could take the artifacts she refined to auction once or twice in order to raise some funds, but if this continued, it would only bring them problems. In the same sense, Yang Kai could not take out his refined pills to raise St. Crystals too frequently. After all, Dragon Cave Mountain did not have a stronger background or protector. Although Shadow Moon Hall had a good relationship with them currently, that was almost exclusively because of Chen Tong's prestige. This did not guarantee that other factions inside Shadow Moon Hall would not start having ideas about them. If too many high-end artifacts and pills were to flow out from here, it would certainly attract unwanted attention. Forget about any others. Yang Kai was certain that Xie Hongwen's father had Dragon Cave Mountain under surveillance. Xie Hongwen had died in the Flowing Flame Sandfield, and although Xie Hongwen's father did not know who killed his son, he would certainly not give up investigating. Once he had an excuse, he might come to Dragon Cave Mountain to find trouble. When did they leave? Yang Kai asked again. 3 days ago. They should be returning any time now. Does young Master Yang need us to find them? If so, we can set out immediately. No, Yang Kai waved his hand. Go about your own business. Yes. The few people gathered around responded and began to disperse, only to have Yang Kai call out suddenly. Right after they come back, tell them not to take artifacts to auction again. After issuing this order, Yang Kai soared up into the sky and flew around Dragon Cave Mountain. He had the token given to him by Yang Yan, which not only controlled all the spirit arrays and barriers in his cave mansion, but also the ones arranged around Dragon Cave Mountain. With this token, there was nowhere on Dragon Cave Mountain Yang Kai could not go. Yang Kai saw all sorts of amazing spirit arrays arranged by Yang Yan, even one that used the illusion stone he brought back as its core. If not for the token Yang Yan had given him, Yang Kai would probably still have stumbled into that illusion array and gotten trapped. Also, the area where the blood sword grass was located had also been concealed inside a profound, bewildering array, hiding it from anyone outside. However, if anyone were to break into this array, they would surely encounter a vicious attack from the blood sword grass. There was also an area that seemed bland and unremarkable, but Yang Kai quickly discovered that the huge fire crystal stone had been set up as an array core of a giant spirit array here. Although he did not know what kind of spirit array had been arranged in this area, Yang Kai knew it was not a place one would want to fall into. There were many other spirit arrays and barriers set up all over the place, causing even Yang Kai, the owner of Dragon Cave Mountain, to feel shocked by how many layers of protection and hidden dangers there were here. Yang Yan had turned this place into a multi-layered, impenetrable fortress. However, Yang Kai knew that she was arranging all these spirit arrays mainly to unlock the memories sealed in her mind. So even if this seemed a bit extravagant and wasteful, he didn't have a problem with it. As long as Yang Yen continued unlocking her memories, her future spirit arrays and barriers would only become stronger. Yang Kai flew for a while around Dragon Cave Mountain before arriving at a relatively open space where there were no signs of any kind of spirit arrays being arranged. After landing, Yang Kai contacted the divine tree inside his black book space before releasing his divine sense like a tide. In the next moment, spiritual energy rapidly flooded out from Yang Kai's knowledge sea, and in a flash of golden light, the 20-meter-tall divine tree suddenly appeared in front of him. Yang Kai was secretly startled as surprise filled his expression. He found that he had greatly underestimated the spiritual energy required to bring the divine tree out. When he first took the divine tree into the black book space, he had completely exhausted his spiritual energy, drying up his knowledge sea entirely. If it were not for the 5-colored soul-warming lotus, his soul would have suffered severe damage, but even with it, he had to cultivate for quite some time before his strength returned to normal. Now that his strength far exceeded what it was back then though, Yang Kai thought it would be an easy task to bring out the divine tree, but contrary to his expectations, it took almost half of the spiritual energy in his knowledge sea to accomplish this feat, frightening him somewhat. But after thinking about it, Yang Kai smiled lightly. His strength had grown greatly over the years, but hadn't the divine tree grown as well? The spiritual energy required to bring it out would naturally be far greater than before. As soon as the divine tree appeared, the face on the trunk showed a happy expression, its 2 eyes slowly sweeping over its new surroundings. After feeling the richness of the world energy here, it showed a look of comfort on its wrinkled face and seemingly let out a happy sigh. Wow, amazing. This place is simply amazing. Yang Kai knew that this was the divine tree's first contact with the world energy aura of the star field. So naturally it would be happy. Compared to the mysterious small world where it had lived before, the difference in aura was like a person on the ground gazing up at the heavens. I'm glad you like it, Yang Kai chuckled. I don't have a specific place for you to stay, so you can just walk around by yourself. Feel free to go wherever you like, but I have to tell you in advance. There are many places here that are covered in barriers and spirit arrays. If you rush into one of those areas, it will likely be dangerous, so be careful where you step. All right, don't worry. I can feel traces of those spirit arrays you mentioned and won't intrude into any of them. The divine tree promised, using its tentacle-like roots to burrow into the ground and, in the blink of an eye, actually took root. Letting out another comfortable sigh, the divine tree's eyes lazily half-squinted. Yang Kai did not disturb it, simply allowing it to enjoy the feeling of the outside world again. After a while, Yang Kai suddenly remembered something and asked, "Right, the 2 drops of golden blood I gave you allowed you to evolve. What if you had more?" The divine tree opened its eyes wide and revealed a look of longing, but it quickly said, "Your golden blood should be extremely valuable, and although it has helped my growth significantly, I had only just evolved, so swallowing any more of it would only serve to increase my strength somewhat. But I'm not in a hurry to do that. After you have an abundance of golden blood, you can spare me a few drops." Yang Kai grinned. "Although I don't have much, it's not problem to give you a drop right now." Saying so, Yang Kai extracted a drop of golden blood before flicking his wrist and sending it slowly over to the divine tree. The divine tree swallowed this drop of golden blood and its mouth made a wriggling motion, as if it was savoring the taste. After a while, the divine tree opened its eyes and said, "Okay, I'll need a few days to adapt to this new environment. You don't need to wait here with me." "All right." Yang Kai nodded, told the divine tree a few things to watch out for, then departed. Calling the cultivators of the Haiku family, Yang Kai told them to take good care of the divine tree, and to inform Yang Yen and Wu Yi about it when they came back so they could make any further arrangements necessary. After completing all this, Yang Kai entered retreat again. Whether it was luck or coincidence, a month after the divine tree awoke from its slumber, a sound came from the profound insect stone in the stone room next to Yang Kai's. This big piece of profound insect stone had finally been used up and disappeared, causing the soul-devouring insects to awaken. After this long hibernation, the soul-devouring insects seemed to have experienced great growth as well. It was nothing less than 2 blessings descending upon the house. Inside the cave mansion, Xianxia sat cross-legged within a stone room. His eyes opened but seemingly empty, his body's aura tumbling violently as a riotous storm seemingly raged around him. Not far away, from a hole in the ground, the stone puppet stuck its small head out, an uncertain look upon his face. He seemingly did not understand what was happening to Xianxia. As for the artifact spirit, it had already snuck into Xianxia's body and disappeared. After meeting Xianxia's 2 empty eyes, the stone puppet seemed to be frightened and shrank back into its hole, fleeing several dozen meters into the ground. At this moment, if someone were standing in front of Xianxia and staring into his eyes, they would see 7-colored light flashing across their depths. And if one observed carefully enough, they would discover that this 7-colored light actually took on the form of a lotus bud. Xianxia sat perfectly still as time passed by, the 7-colored glow in the depths of his dull eyes slowly growing stronger. Gradually, above Xianxia's head, a beautiful phantasmal lotus flower appeared, one that emitted dazzling 7-colored light. This lotus rotated slowly while releasing an astonishing spiritual energy fluctuation. As the illusionary lotus continued releasing spiritual energy, its multicolored petals began to gently blossom, as if it was a shy lady ever so slowly removing her robes to reveal her pure self. The whole process was extremely slow, but Xianxia himself was unaware of it as his consciousness was completely immersed in his knowledge sea, comprehending the profound mysteries that arose from the soul-warming lotus blossoming. Xianxia did not know how much time had passed, but by the time the phantom 7-colored lotus fully bloomed atop his head, it had expanded to almost fill the entire stone room. The moment it finished blossoming, this illusionary lotus shattered into tiny points of light that filled the air like fireflies before immediately being drawn into Xianxia's body by some unseen force and disappearing. Xianxia's body shook, and his eyes regained their clarity, but his expression remained tight as he continued sitting in meditation. When the soul-devouring insects finished their evolution half a month ago, Xianxia had immediately tested out their power and had been greatly satisfied with their performance. Soon after, though, the soul-warming lotus also completed its evolution to its final 7-colored form. However, Xianxia had not imagined that after his soul-warming lotus evolved, he would comprehend a mysterious soul skill from it. Although the soul-warming lotus was an unparalleled treasure and could infinitely nourish one's soul, according to the records Xianxia had read, it did not allow a cultivator that possessed it to comprehend any kind of soul skills. But Xianxia did not have time to think too much about this as he immediately began comprehending this newly acquired technique. Now that the soul-warming lotus had completed its evolution and he had thoroughly comprehended this new soul skill, Xianxia had a moment to puzzle over this unexpected development. If it was not the credit of the soul-warming lotus, it most likely had something to do with the colorless crystal cube he had acquired in the pool of soul-cleansing divine water. Xianxia had inadvertently obtained that crystal, after which his soul-warming lotus quickly swallowed it, allowing it to begin its process of evolution. Now that colorless crystal had completely disappeared, and his soul-warming lotus had successfully evolved into its 7-colored form. Xianxia hypothesized that the soul skill he had obtained this time was somehow related to that colorless crystal. Perhaps there was some kind of mysterious force that allowed Xianxia to acquire this new divine ability by chance. Although he had no way to experiment with this new soul skill, Xianxia could understand that it was an extraordinary ability, one worthy of being called a certain kill strike. Recently there had been too many happy events. The divine tree had woken from its deep sleep, the soul-devouring insects had finished their evolution, and now the soul-warming lotus had transformed into its ultimate 7-colored form. It was as if all these good things had decided to spring themselves on Xianxia at once. Xianxia had been worrying about where to place the evolved soul-devouring insects a few days ago, but now this problem had been solved. Considering all this, Xianxia waved his hand and summoned a mass of gray fog to it. This fog twisted about randomly, appearing extremely strange. Although this fog was difficult to notice, if one observed it closely, they would notice that it was a cloud of small insects that were almost invisible to the naked eye. Xianxia's soul-devouring insects were originally invisible to the eye, but after their recent evolution, Once they gathered in one place, they formed this gray fog. The lethality of each soul-devouring insect had greatly increased, and Xianxia estimated that they could not easily kill ordinary Saint Kings, and even an Origin Realm Master that was infested with them would have trouble quickly purging them. Xianxia was naturally not afraid of them at all, however, and after releasing his divine sense, he simply wrapped them up and moved them into his knowledge. See, the swarm of soul-devouring insects traveled straight to island the seven-colored soul-warming lotus had transformed into in Xianxia's knowledge sea and quickly settled into their new home. After such a long retreat, Xianxia had accomplished everything he intended to. He had refined the artifact refining furnace, begun refining the dragon bone and dragon bead, refined the flowing flame flying fires to enhance the power of his conflagrated knowledge sea, and comprehended the demon blood thread technique. The dragon bone and dragon bead refinement was something Xianxia knew. He could not rush and was resigned to wait for it to finish on its own so he could make use of them. As for the golden blood thread, he had adapted from Demon Blood Temple's demon blood thread technique. While he had successfully comprehended it, he was still in the process of cultivating it. Although he had not used it against an enemy yet, Xianxia knew it was a very powerful technique, as the pseudo-artifacts he could refine using his golden blood were far more flexible and handier than any weapon. Of the 8 flowing flame flying fires, Xianxia refined 6. As he had guessed, these flowing flame flying fires could allow a cultivator to obtain a mutated knowledge sea and enhance the power of his conflagrated knowledge sea. However, after refining the 5th flowing flame flying fire, the enhancement Xianxia received was no longer obvious. So Xianxia left too, thinking they might come in handy for something else later. After a year in secluded retreat, Xianxia's cultivation realm hadn't actually changed much, but his combat effectiveness had actually improved significantly. Now all he needed was an opportunity to verify the power of his golden blood thread and newly realized soul skill. It was time to go out. Cultivation could not be done by completely cutting oneself off from the outside world. Although doing this could help one quickly enhance their realm, their fighting power would not be able to keep up with their cultivation. Xianxia's cultivation path had been filled with fighting, so naturally he understood this simple truth. Moreover, he now had to exit his retreat because a guest had come to Dragon Cave Mountain a month ago and was currently waiting for him outside. The only reason he had not gone to see them yet was because the 7-colored soul-warming lotus had just completed its evolution and he needed to spend some time to comprehend the soul skill he obtained in the process. Thinking of who this guest was, Xianxia frowned slightly, wondering why she had specifically come here looking for him. From the level of friendship they shared, it was strange for her to care so much about his well-being. Even so, Xianxia got up and left his cave mansion. A short time later, Xianxia appeared outside and unscrupulously released his divine sense, quickly locating Yang Yan and Wu Yi and sending them a message before flying straight over to one of the open lofts. A moment later, while Xianxia was sitting in this loft sipping a spirit tea that Yang Yan and the others had obtained from somewhere, 2 beautiful young ladies appeared at the entrance. Naturally, it was Yang Yan in her signature black robe and Wu Yi in a green dress. The 2 women were both smiling broadly, as if something good had happened, and after spotting Xianxia, they hurried over. "You've finally come out." Yang Yan swept his eyes over Xianxia, but upon not finding any signs that he had become stronger, furrowed her brow slightly. "And what happened? Why do both of you seem so happy?" Xianxia asked again while sipping his tea. Wu smiled and explained, "Our Dragon Cave Mountain is becoming more and more famous. Many cultivators without sex or families have been asking to join us. Earlier, not many people would even pass by this place, but over the past few months, more than a dozen would show up every day asking. One day there were as many as 30 people requesting to join us, including one who was an Origin returning realm master. Elder sister Yang Yan and I were discussing whether to found a small sect here." "A small sect?" Xianxia shot her a disapproving look. "Your thinking is too simple. We do not have any powerful masters here, so how could be found a sect? On top of that, we can only stay here safely because of Qian Tong. If one day Qian Tong were to lose power or fall in battle, do you think Shadow Moon Hall would just sit by and watch us grow stronger right on their doorstep?" Listening to Xianxia's words, the smile on Wu Yi's face retreated and after hesitating for a while argued, "That shouldn't be. Elder Qian has an incredibly high position in Shadow Moon Hall, second only to the sect master. Anything is possible, especially in such a big force. Although things usually proceed in a predictable manner, once something does happen, the fallout is generally quite large, and those who are in power may lose their influence or unexpectedly fall. On top of that, although Qian Tong is good to us, I do not want to constantly depend upon his prestige and shelter behind him, otherwise we'll find ourselves constantly lacking the initiative. If there is no third-order origin returning realm master to assume command, don't even think about trying to found a sect here. Wu Yi frowned, thought for a moment, but soon nodded. What you said makes sense. I really wasn't thinking far enough ahead. Yang Kai also had the idea to found a sect because he wanted to pave the way for his friends and family back on Tongshan realm, but he had no intention to do so anytime soon. This idea was proposed by Wu Yi. Yang Yan only thought about artifact refining or arranging spirit arrays and would not consider such things, but Wu Yi had managed many things for the Haiku family before now and would have such ambitions. However, as someone who had only experienced things in a small family force, her way of thinking was too simple. She had thought that so long as they had Qian Tong's shelter, Dragon Cave Mountain could be worry-free. Did you refuse those who came? Yang Kai asked somewhat nervously. Naturally, I refused them. You were in retreat, so we didn't dare make such a big decision. Wu Yi nodded. That's good. Yang Kai touched his chin, suddenly raising his head and asking, Did that Dai Yuan from Colored Glass sect say why she wanted to see me? After listening to Yang Kai's question, Wu Yi smiled and gave him an ambiguous look. I don't know. She has not spoken much since she arrived here. It seems she does not like communicating with others. I've visited her a few times, but she hardly speaks, aside from inquiring about you, that is, he. Like Wei Guchong, it seems Wu Yi had some kind of misunderstanding. Yang Kai was too lazy to explain and instead just said, Forget it. I'll go and see her. If it isn't something important, she wouldn't have come here in such a hurry. Saying so, Yang Kai went straight out. Yang Kai wanted to get some information from Wu Yi and Yang Yan so he could prepare himself in advance. But he had not expected that after an entire month. Dai Yuan hadn't even disclosed her purpose in coming here. Yang Kai secretly felt a headache coming on. Dai Yuan was not the kind of person to simply visit someone on a whim. Since she had come here, she must have something she wanted to ask of him. If it was just another stranger here to ask him a favor, Yang Kai would refuse to even meet them. But this woman was very close to Wei Guchong and Dong Xianer, and Yang Kai had spent time fighting by her side in the Flowing Flame Sandfield. To simply refuse her outright would be too boorish. He could only ask her what she wanted and then take things from there. A moment later, Yang Kai arrived at another exquisite loft about 1,000 meters away from the one he had been sitting in. He had checked with his divine sense in advance and naturally knew that Dai Yuan was currently staying here. At this moment, Dai Yuan's aura seemed quite tranquil, probably indicating she was in meditative cultivation. Yang Kai could only call out, Sister Daiyan, it's Yang Kai. There was a momentary fluctuation in the tranquil aura, and then Dai Yuan's surprised voice called out from the loft. Junior brother Yang, please come in. I was just meditating, so it is a bit inconvenient for me to welcome you right now. I'll be down after I finish this last cycle. Yang Kai gently nodded and strode in. This loft was divided into 2 floors. When Wu Yi and the others built it, they had taken into consideration that anyone who lived here might need to receive guests. So the first floor was set up for entertainment purposes, while the second floor was for the owner to cultivate. Yang Kai entered the first floor of the loft and found a chair to sit down on. If one were to really think about it, this was his site, making Dai Yuan the guest. Therefore Yang Kai saw no need to act overly polite. After waiting quietly for a short time, the sound of footsteps came from the stairs and Dai Yuan walked down from above in a light blue dress, a smile upon her face. Her dress vividly outlined her perfect figure, emphasizing her rich peaks and slender waist. Looking at her though, Yang Kai could not help a look of pity flashing across his face, because if not for her disfigured face, this woman would definitely be a great beauty. Unfortunately, this one shortcoming destroyed her charms. Although this look only flashed across the depths of Yang Kai's eyes for an instant, it was still noticed by Dai Yuan. This woman was both beautiful and intelligent. So how could she not understand what Xianxia was regretting? In her heart, she felt hurt, but on her face she maintained her warm smile, offering a light apology for making him wait before sitting down on a chair across from Xianxia. Next, with a wave of her jade-white hand, she summoned a plate of delicate spirit fruits and placed them onto the table between them. This is the purple mist fruit I picked from Purple Mist Mountain in Colored Glass Sect. No place on Shadowed Star grows this spirit fruit other than my Colored Glass Sect. Although it is not comparable to the spirit fruits and spirit medicines which grow in the Flowing Flame Sandfield, this purple mist fruit is of great help to cultivators who wish to purify their Saint Chi. Please have a taste, Junior Brother Yang. Dai Yuan introduced it with a smile as she wore a look of anticipation. Xianxia grinned. Since Sister Dai Yuan has offered, this Yang will not refuse. Although he was muttering to himself that this woman was looking for a favor from him, Xianxia still picked up one of the small purple fruits and observed it slightly. This was the first time he had heard of the purple mist fruit, but from its crystal-like appearance and the sweet fragrance it gave off, Xianxia could tell that this was not something ordinary disciples of Colored Glass Sect could ever taste. Since Dai Yuan had specially brought it here though, naturally Xianxia would sample it. Tossing the little purple fruit into his mouth, he chewed it a few times, releasing a sweet juice which caused his brow to rise. The taste of this fruit was excellent, and the sweetness seemed to penetrate directly into one's mind, making anyone who consumed it feel very comfortable. After swallowing this purple mist fruit into his belly, Xianxia felt heat spread from his abdomen and spread out to his limbs. Although the purification effect on his Saint Chi was not great, it also wasn't insignificant. Xianxia said nothing as he picked up another purple mist fruit and ate it, eating a third after that before offering some words of praise. Dai Yuan was very pleased seeing this. Next, Xianxia talked happily with Dai Yuan about what happened after they separated in the Flowing Flame Sandfield. However, what frustrated Xianxia was that Dai Yuan really seemed intent on just chatting with him, never once mentioning her true purpose in coming here. Regardless of what Xianxia said, she would have some kind of follow-up, allowing the conversation to continue on harmoniously, as if the two were old friends who had not seen each other in years and were now reveling in their long life experiences. Dai Yuan's pleasant laughter that rang out from time to time made the time pass by quickly. After 2 hours, Xianxia finally could not help it any longer, coughed and asked, "Did Sister Dai Yuan come to Dragon Cave Mountain for something specific? If you have something you need my help with, please speak clearly. As long as I am able to, I will definitely not refuse." Xianxia did not make too grand of a promise. If it were just some minor matter that wouldn't cost him much time, he was willing to help her. But if Dai Yuan wanted to ask him to do something dangerous, Xianxia wasn't prepared to accept. He did not want to make too many enemies on Shadowed Star. That Lu Yi from Flowing Cloud Valley was more than enough to give him a headache. Xianxia really could not figure out why Lu Yi seemed to have a grudge against him, even going so far as to secretly then openly attack him back in the third layer of the Flowing Flame Sandfield. Although Xianxia cut off one of Lu Ye's arms with his space blade, without killing this strange enemy, Xianxia could not rest easy. When Xianxia asked this question, Dai Yuan immediately fell silent, nibbling her red lips as if hesitating. Xianxia did not urge her, instead just sitting and waiting quietly while at the same time raising his wariness. Dai Yuan hesitating like this obviously meant the favor she wanted to ask was not something small. In fact, Xianxia was already thinking about what to say to reject her. Finally, Dai Yuan raised her head, stared into Xianxia's eyes with her own, and asked a shocking question, "Junior Brother Yang, are you an origin-grade alchemist?" Xianxia's eyes narrowed as sharp light flashed across their depths, but he quickly let out a laugh. Why would Sister Dai Yuan ask such a thing? Him being an origin-grade alchemist was something that no one on Shadowed Star knew. Even Yang Yen and Wu Yi did not know about it. Xianxia had told them once, but neither of them had taken him seriously and simply wrote it off as a bad joke. So how could Dai Yuan know? There was an origin-grade artifact refiner on Dragon Cave Mountain, which was enough to draw people's attention. So if not for there being a profound protective spirit array here and Qian Tong sheltering them so doggedly, how could Dragon Cave Mountain have remained so tranquil? If news that an origin-grade alchemist also resided here were to leak out, it would cause a massive uproar. Junior brother Yang does not need to deny it. Since I've made such an assertion, I naturally have enough confidence to back it up. Dai Yuan smiled slightly, reaching out and brushing her hair loose back behind her ear as she stared at Yang Kai confidently. But junior brother Yang may rest assured. No one other than me knows about this. If junior brother Yang does not feel at ease though, you can kill me to silence me. And I didn't tell anyone where I was going before I left Colored Glass Sect and tried my best to conceal my movements along the way. So even if I die here, no one other than the few people here will know anything, so you don't have to worry about Colored Glass Sect coming to seek revenge. Silencing her by killing her was obviously impossible for Yang Kai. If Dai Yuan was an enemy, he wouldn't care about such things. But there was neither enmity nor resentment between them. So how could he kill her simply for finding out that he was an origin-grade alchemist? Moreover, since she had brought this up on her own, and even proposed silencing the witness to the crime, Dai Yuan had shown enough sincerity. Yang Kai's expression became indifferent as he pondered for a while before knitting his brow and asking, "How did you find out? You really are?" Dai Yuan's eyes remained calm, but a flash of surprise still appeared in their depths as she stared at Yang Kai for a moment. Yang Kai gawked for a moment before smiling bitterly and cupping his fists. Sister Dai Yuan is sinister enough. This Yang admits defeat. How could he have not understood what had just happened? Dai Yuan's words had all been a trap. Seeing her act so confidently, Yang Kai thought he had really been exposed and had not imagined that she was simply just suspicious. Yang Kai estimated that if he had vigorously denied the charge and refused to admit it, Dai Yuan would not have suspected him. Dai Yuan smiled awkwardly, stood up, and bowed to Yang Kai elegantly before offering an apology. "Forgive me, junior brother Yang. I could only use this small deception to confirm my theory. If you feel that to be intolerable, feel free to curse me. There's no need for that." Yang Kai shook his head, knowing that Dai Yuan wanted to resolve his grievances. But he was the one who had walked into a trap because he let his guard down. So how could he scold her? "Many thanks for your magnanimity, junior brother Yang." Dai Yuan expressed her deep gratitude before sitting down once more. "How did you come to suspect I was an origin-grade alchemist?" Yang Kai asked curiously. "I only knew that you were an alchemist, but as for what grade you were, I couldn't be certain." Dai Yuan looked her head slightly and smiled, seemingly in a good mood. "That alone is quite strange, though." Yang Kai looked at her, hoping she could explain further. "It's quite simple, actually. Because of some special reasons, I am overly sensitive to the medicinal fragrances of pills, and junior brother Yang always had a variety of pill fragrances about him, so I knew you were an alchemist. Even now, you have a light pill fragrance on you. If I were to guess, I would say you refined an origin condensing pill and jasmine blood pill, correct? And the refinement should have been about half a year ago or so." This time, Yang Kai was truly shocked. Yang Kai had heard of other people being able to smell the scent of a woman on a man, but he had never heard of someone being capable of smelling a medicinal or pill fragrance on another person. What's more, Dai Yuan had just said was incredibly accurate. Half a year ago, he really had refined some origin condensing pills and blood jasmine pills. Of course, there were other pills he had refined before then, but perhaps because it was too long ago or the scent had dissipated, Dai Yuan didn't smell them or didn't bother mentioning them. This special ability greatly surprised Yang Kai. Of course, if that was all the evidence I had, I wouldn't have suspected that junior brother Yang was an origin-grade alchemist. There may have simply been a powerful master here that junior brother Yang was around frequently and picked up those pill fragrances from. But Dai Yuan smiled mysteriously. "Since I came here 1 month ago, I didn't discover any such powerful master. On top of that, the last time you gave the Shadow Moon Hall disciples a few healing pills in the flowing flame sand field, I noticed that they had only been recently refined, so I made a bold guess that junior brother Yang was an alchemist. Those pills were all also of extraordinary quality, so the level of the one who refined them was obviously not low." Yang Kai did not try to make any denials. With Dai Yuan possessing such a peculiar ability, even if he were to deny it, it would be useless. However, at the same time, Yang Kai felt relieved. After all, this ability was probably unique to Dai Yuan, so it was impossible for other to use such a method to infer that Yang Kai was an origin-grade alchemist. Dai Yuan also seemed like a trustworthy person. so Yang Kai was not worried she would betray him. Taking all this into consideration, Yang Kai calmed down and smiled gently. Does Sister Dai Yuan first confirming my identity as an alchemist mean you want my help with alchemy? He could only make such a conjecture, as it was the only way to explain everything. How could he have anticipated that Dai Yuan would shake her head though? It's not about alchemy, but it is related to alchemy, otherwise I wouldn't have come here. Yang Kai showed a faint smile. Although I don't know what it is you want me to do, but there should be others who can help you on Shadowed Star. I will not conceal it from Sister Dai Yuan. I am currently just an origin-grade low-rank alchemist. Your status in Colored Glass sect should not be low. Isn't there an origin-grade alchemist in your sect? Even if Colored Glass sect does not have one, couldn't you ask the Grandmasters from Medicine Pill sect to take action? I cannot match any of them in terms of alchemy accomplishments. Last time Yang Kai had also learned that there were 5 origin-grade alchemists in Medicine Pill sect, each of whom was a highly respected master. Besides, Colored Glass sect was one of Shadowed Star's most powerful sects. It was impossible for them to now have at least one alchemist of this level. Dai Yuan running over to Dragon Cave Mountain to find him was like going around the sun to reach the moon, raising Yang Kai's curiosity. If that were possible, why would I embarrass myself in front of junior brother Yang? Dai Yuan had a bitter smile on her face. There is indeed a Grandmaster Xiao in my sect who is an origin-grade alchemist, but there are inconvenient issues with me asking for Grandmaster Xiao's help. Grandmaster Xiao. Yang Kai raised his brow as the old kind face of Medicine King's Valley Xiao Fusheng surfaced in his mind. He did not expect that the Grandmaster Alchemist of Colored Glass sect would also be surnamed Xiao. As for the Grandmasters from Medicine Pill sect, Dai Yuan frowned. 4 of them are difficult to ask for the same reason as Grandmaster Xiao. The last one is actually a suitable candidate, but the price to hire them is too high. I don't have the ability to pay it. Yang Kai gave her a stunned look. This woman's cultivation and strength were not low, and her means were quite good, so he thought that she must hold a high position in Colored Glass sect. But from her words, Yang Kai sensed that things were more complicated than that. She probably did not have the ability to summon the wind and rain in Colored Glass sect as he had previously suspected. Thinking back on what happened at the mountain valley in the 3rd layer of the flowing flame sand field while waiting for the red candle fruit to mature, the nearby Colored Glass sect disciples all clearly saw Dai Yuan, but none of them had gone to greet her. From beginning to end, she had been acting alone while all the other Colored Glass sect disciples stuck together with Insu Dai. Their treatment as different as heaven and earth. Yang Kai suddenly felt like he had understood something. Therefore, I could only look for junior brother Yang for help. Dai Yuan suddenly said while staring at Yang Kai earnestly, her star-like eyes showing a pleading intention. Yang Kai brow furrowed as he pondered for a while before asking, "Can you tell me what it is you want me to do for you?" Dai Yuan bit her red lips and embarrassedly said, "Before junior brother Yang agrees, telling you is somewhat inconvenient." Yang Kai's face sank as a touch of annoyance filled his expression. This woman came here to ask for his help but refused to tell him what it was she wanted him to do. So even though Yang Kai had a good impression of her, he would not just stupidly agree. Just as he was about to refuse though, Dai Yuan hurriedly said, "But I can guarantee that it is something junior brother Yang can do, and it will not take very much time or effort. If everything goes well, just 3 days of time will be enough. After it is finished, I will also be sure to compensate junior brother Yang." Yang Kai naturally didn't care about whatever compensation she could offer. Dai Yuan already admitted she could not afford to move one of the Grandmasters from Medicine Pill sect, so how could she have anything good to offer him as payment? However, if whatever it was would only take 3 days, he could still consider it. But Dai Yuan looked at Yang Kai cautiously, as if even she didn't have confidence in persuading him, and weakly said, "If junior brother Yang agrees, he will need to accompany me back to Colored Glass sect." Yang Kai raised his eyes and stared at Dai Yuan, who fell silent and bit her lip, waiting for his reply. After a moment, Yang Kai smiled calmly and said, "Let me consider this matter. Dragon Cave Mountain has some nice scenery, so if Sister Dai Yuan wishes, she can take a walk around and enjoy it. As for your request, I will give you a reply 3 days from now." Dai Yuan's eyes dimmed. knowing that Yang Kai had not directly refused her purely out of politeness. How could she have missed the perfunctory tone in his voice, though? Him saying he would reply 3 days from now was almost as good as him saying no. Sighing faintly, although she felt quite forlorn, Dai Yuan still squeezed out a smile. Then Dai Yuan will wait for good news from junior brother Yang. Having finished their discussion, Yang Kai said goodbye and left. After Yang Kai left, Dai Yuan turned around and walked back up to the second floor with an anxious look upon her face. She knew that she was acting unreasonably here. Since she had come to ask for a favor, naturally she should make the details of her request clear. But some things were not easy to discuss, making her feel quite troubled. Dai Yuan even thought about quietly leaving, so as not to make things difficult for Yang Kai. After all, sticking around for 3 days just to get rejected would only make things awkward for both of them. But strangely, Dai Yuan couldn't bring herself to leave and decided to wait out these 3 days. Perhaps she was still holding out some faint hope in her heart. Yang Kai left the loft and walked back to the original building he had come from, a slight frown upon his face. Yang Kai had not rejected Dai Yuan on the spot to avoid embarrassing her. If it had been someone else, he would not have bothered acting polite. Returning to the original loft he had tea in, Yang Kai was surprised to find that Wu Yi and Yang Yan had not left yet, the two of them smiling at the entranceway, seemingly having waited for him to return. Yang Kai thought that the two women would immediately ask him what had happened, but to his surprise, they simply watched him pass between them silently. After Yang Kai entered the loft, Yang Yan and Wu Yi followed him inside. Immediately, Yang Yan took out a token identical to the one she had given Yang Kai, and after pouring her Saint Qi into it, a ray of light shot out from it, and in the next moment, the entire loft seemed to be wrapped by the invisible barrier which not only cut off the sound and sight from the outside, even divine sense was blocked. "What are you doing?" Yang Kai asked in amazement. Yang Yan walked over with a big grin on her face, sitting in a chair nearby, exchanging a glance with Wu Yi before asking him, "Are you going to agree to her request?" Yang Kai's expression now turned to shock. He looked at Yang Yan, then at Wu Yi, then back again. After noticing the twinkle in the eyes of these two women, he immediately understood. "Were you eavesdropping?" Wu Yi's face turned red and did not deny the charge, silently admitting her guilt. Yang Yan, on the other hand, said frankly, "Eavesdropping? Nonsense, I was just testing out the power of a newly researched spirit array." "What kind of effects does this new spirit array of yours have?" Yang Kai asked in surprise. When he was talking with Dai Yuan just now, he had not noticed anyone trying to eavesdrop on them. But now it seems their entire conversation had been heard by these two. The spirit arrays arranged by Yang Yan were simply too mysterious. "You wouldn't understand if I explained it to you. It's better for you to see for yourself," Yang Yan said before taking a large plate-side disc. This disc was made from some unidentifiable black material, but when Yang Kai used his divine sense to examine it, he could not help calling out in surprise as he was able to hear Dai Yuan sighing coming from it. However, besides this, there was no other information coming from this disc, so obviously it was connected to a spirit array that was monitoring the sounds inside Dai Yuan's loft. Yang Kai really didn't know when Yang Yan had arranged this, but he could guess that she had set it up a long time ago and was simply waiting for some foreign guests to arrive before experimenting with the spirit array. Suddenly, Yang Kai's complexion changed as he stared at Yang Yan and asked, "Is there something like this in my cave mansion?" "No," Yang Yan denied flatly, her small head shaking like a rattle. "Why would I need to arrange something like this in your cave mansion?" "Good." Yang Kai nodding in satisfaction before his expression suddenly became strict. "Highly improper. Don't do this kind of vulgar matter again. If it were to be noticed, it would be a great disgrace." Yang Yan and Wu Yi looked at each other before sticking out their tongues playfully. Yang Kai saw this, rubbed his forehead, and moved the conversation forward. "But since you overheard, you should understand why I didn't agree to her request. So why does it look like you have a different opinion?" Yang Kai was full of doubts. According to Wu Yi, since Dai Yuan came here, even if Wu Yi took the initiative to visit her several times, they hadn't conversed much, but after this brief chat he had, Yang Yan seemed to have taken a deep interest in this matter and was eager for him to agree. Yang Kai could tell that Yang Yen wanted him to go to colored glass sect with Dai Yuan, but the two women in front of him didn't have any kind of friendship with Dai Yuan, so there was no need for them to lobby on her behalf. Yang Yen, hearing this, nodded without hesitation. If it is possible, I want you to agree to her request. Yang Kai's eyes narrowed as he stared at Yang Yen fixedly. After a while, he asked, "This isn't about being sympathetic to her. You must have some reason for this. What are you scheming?" Yang Yen smiled mysteriously. "It's not an exaggeration to say that I'm scheming something, but let us talk about the pros and cons of you agreeing to her request first." She said that it would only take 3 days to complete this matter and that it was within your ability. If what she said is true, then no matter what this matter is, it should not be difficult for you. The only troublesome part will be you needing to take a trip to colored glass sect. Yang Kai nodded lightly, without interrupting, motioning her to continue. Seeing that Yang Kai was still disinterested, Yang Yen wasn't discouraged and continued. She said that afterwards, she would compensate you, but with your current net worth, I doubt anything she could offer would be of interest to you. That's right. Therefore, there's no benefit in me doing her a favor, and it's also not appropriate to run over to someone else's sect. If Dai Yuan's status there was the same as that of Insu Dai's, it would not be an issue, but I somehow get the impression that she isn't very popular within colored glass sect. Yang Kai frowned slightly. Yang Yen smiled. About her I was curious, so Wu Yi and I did some digging. Guess what we found? What? Yang Kai looked at them faintly. Wu Yi was the one to speak this time. Just as you guessed, Dai Yuan doesn't seem to be very popular in colored glass sect, but that only became the case about 10 years ago. Back then, do you know which disciple had the most resounding reputation in colored glass sect? Dai Yuan. Indeed. Previously, in colored glass sect, Dai Yuan's fame exceeded Insu Dai's, but for some unknown reason, Dai Yuan suddenly faded from the sight of colored glass sect's leaders. Insu Dai replaced her in that position, allowing her to become the representative of colored glass sect's younger generation and enjoy worldwide fame. As for what transpired, we were not able to find out, but the elders of colored glass sect seem to have a strange love-hate relationship with Dai Yuan. The cultivation resources and residence she is given aren't inferior to Insu Dai's, but she isn't being deliberately cultivated by them either. A very strange situation. That really is strange. Yang Kai was also puzzled. He had not fought with Insu Dai, but he had seen Dai Yuan fight and felt that she was an elite among Saint Kings. Although she had been oppressed by a disciple from Heaven battling Union in the Flowing Flame Sand Field, that was because her heart had been disturbed and she was unable to display her full strength. If she were to have fought calmly, Dai Yuan would not have been afraid of that man. However, there was still a certain gap between her and Chu Changfeng, Fang Tianzhong, Wei Guchang, and the other geniuses of Shadowed Star, something Yang Kai was able to see clearly. If I help her, what do I have to gain or lose? I don't seem like I'll lose anything, but it also doesn't seem like there's anything to gain. Yang Kai gave Yang Yen a strange look. Wu Yi grinned. It would be enough to not lose anything, but as for what you can gain, having someone owe you a favor is a harvest on its own. After all, even if she is not looked upon favorably right now, that doesn't mean she won't be in the future. By that time, having the gratitude of a woman like her would be helpful to our future development. On top of that, Big Sister Yang Yen seems to have her own plans. Yang Kai could not help turning his eyes to Yang Yen. Yang Yen gently nodded and asked, "Have you heard of the 1,000 Illusion Colored Glass Mountain of Colored Glass Sect?" Yang Kai shook his head. He was not too familiar with the major forces on Shadowed Star nor their special backgrounds or heritages, but since Yang Yen had specifically mentioned this 1,000 Illusion Colored Glass Mountain, it seemed it was a big deal. The 1,000 Illusion Colored Glass Mountain is treasure naturally formed from 1,000 illusion colored glass and is in the heart of Colored Glass Sect. Colored Glass Sect was established because of the 1,000 Illusion Colored Glass Mountain. 1,000 Illusion Colored Glass is a rare and valuable artifact refining material that has self-repairing properties. I need this material, and lots of it, Yang Yen said seriously. Yang Kai couldn't help letting out a hearty laugh. Even if that's the case, I can't help you. Since Colored Glass Sect was established there because of this Colored Glass Mountain, It would be impossible for its elders to give me some of that 1,000 illusion-colored glass, right? Naturally, that's impossible. On top of that, we can't afford it. Yang Yen snorted. You don't know, 1,000 illusion-colored glass mountain is an existence that is famous all over Shadowed Star. Colored Glass Sect uses it as an array core to release colored glass divine light, which actually has an innate ability to restrain other souls. I have heard that several crises that befell Colored Glass Sect were resolved by them using Colored Glass Mountain. Moreover, this mountain is a single massive block, so cutting a piece of 1,000 illusion-colored glass from it is extremely difficult. Even Colored Glass Sect is only able to harvest a tiny bit of 1,000 illusion-colored glass per year, most of which it uses for itself while the rest is sold out for an astonishing price. Even so, all the other great forces go all out to purchase this tiny portion, pushing the price to an outrageous height. We're currently completely broke, so obviously we can't afford to buy any from them. We're completely broke again? Yang Kai was shocked. He remembered that when he came out last time, he heard from the former Haiku family cultivators that Yang Yen and Wu Yi had gone to auction off some artifacts. Although Yang Kai didn't know how many Saint Crystals they raised at that time, he was certain it wasn't a small number. How could they now be broke? Yang Yen suddenly wore a look of embarrassment on her face as she admitted, "The amount of materials used to arrange spirit arrays is too large. You forbid us from continuing to sell artifacts, so we have no source of income. Even if we're poor, you can't sell artifacts anymore," Yang Kai said seriously before letting long sigh. "At least before we become strong enough." "I know," Yang Yen said with a disgruntled and unwillingly look. She had actually refined 180 high-grade artifacts and was planning on holding an auction of her own to sell all of them to alleviate their current poverty-stricken situation. But with Yang Kai's order and Wu Yi's persuasion, she eventually gave up implementing this crazy plan. "Tell me more about this 1,000 illusion-colored glass." Yang Kai looked at her with a smile. "What do you actually want to do? How do you want me to acquire that 1,000 illusion-colored glass right under Colored Glass Sect's eyes?" Yang Yen grinned meaningfully, clapped her hands and called out, "Xiao Xiao!" As soon as she called it, a gray figure popped up from underground and stood motionlessly in front of the trio, its long hands drooping down as it stared up at Yang Yen innocently. Naturally, it was Yang Kai's stone puppet. Yang Kai's eyes lit up and immediately understood what Yang Yen was thinking. "Xiao Xiao can see through all the barriers and spirit arrays I've arranged, so it should easily be able to break into Colored Glass Sect's restricted areas. I don't believe that the spirit arrays arranged by Colored Glass Sect could be better than mine. If you bring it into Colored Glass Sect with you, carving out 1,000 illusion-colored glass mountain will be a cinch." When Yang Kai heard Yang Yan's plan, he could not help feeling a bit of cold sweat drip down his back. Colored Glass Sect was doomed. They just had to have a treasure like the 1,000 illusion-colored glass mountain. They probably thought that 1,000 illusion-colored glass mountain was safe under their multiple barriers, and that not even a fly could slip past their watch. But how could they have anticipated a creature like the stone puppet existed in this world? As the saying goes, those who do not fear thieves stealing from them should still fear thieves thinking about their treasure. The 1,000 illusion-colored glass mountain was constantly being eyed by Yang Yen. The stone puppet had an innate ability to devour rare minerals, and since 1,000 illusion-colored glass could be used for artifact refining, it would definitely be a delicacy to it. The stone puppet could come and go without leaving any trace, and it did not give off any life aura. So presumably even a third-order origin returning realm master wouldn't be aware of its existence. Wouldn't it be easy then to release the stone puppet and have it harvest some 1,000 illusion-colored glass? Yang Kai could probably leave Colored Glass Sect with the stone puppet without the elders of Colored Glass Sect ever even noticing that 1,000 illusion-colored glass mountain had been hollowed out. "I've wanted to acquire 1,000 illusion-colored glass since long ago, but unfortunately I've never had a chance. But now someone has actually come and invited you in. This is simply the best opportunity," Yang Yen concluded as she stared into Yang Kai's eyes. "What do you want to refine with that 1,000 illusion-colored glass?" Yang Kai was still hesitant as he frowned and asked. After all, this was nothing short of running over to another person's sect and stealing their most precious treasure. Once this incident came to light, an irresolvable grudge would be formed. If what Yang Yen wanted to refine was not something important, Yang Kai didn't want to take on such a risk. I want to refine a very special treasure. Yang Yen smiled mysteriously but didn't clarify her intent, simply saying, "It's inconvenient to say it now because I've not yet fully finished its design, mainly because I don't have enough artifact refining and spirit array knowledge, but I can tell you that this thing is also of great use to you and will certainly not disappoint you. When it's finished, you will definitely be thankful for your choice now." Inconvenient to say, is it? Yang Kai shook his head bitterly. Today, it seemed all the women around him had contracted an illness which made them refuse to tell him anything, causing him some non-negligible annoyance. "You have to go to colored glass sect. I'll think about it again." Although Yang Kai was also somewhat eager to give it a try, this was not some trivial matter, so careful consideration was still necessary. "Please, please, please." Yang Yen pleaded while pulling out something from her space ring and shaking it in front of Yang Kai. "We can also make a stop on our way to look for this. If we are lucky, it might be able to ease our current financial crisis." Seeing what she was holding in her hand, Yang Kai couldn't lean towards agreeing. "Big brother Yang, you should agree to big sister Yang Yan's proposal. This time you've been in retreat for quite a while, so it would be best to go out and move about to relax. Perhaps you will gain something unexpected from this trip." Wu Yi also persuaded, but her approach was far more ingenious, emphasizing how this would benefit Yang Kai's cultivation rather than directly pleading like Yang Yen. In a loft in Dragon Cave Mountain, Dai Yuan sat by the second-floor window and gazed out across the scenery, resting her head on her hand as she breathed lightly. Dragon Cave Mountain was always quiet and peaceful because there were not many cultivators living here, only a few dozen people. Although each of their cultivations was not very high, they were all extremely hard-working and spent most of their time in secluded retreat. Only those who were responsible for maintaining and guarding Dragon Cave Mountain could be seen walking around from time to time. Today was the day Yang Kai had agreed to give her a response. So Dai Yuan had woken up from her meditation at dawn and sat here uneasily, hoping to see Yang Kai's figure. Although she knew that this would likely not turn out how she hoped, she could not bring herself to give up. The sun had risen, and the warm sunshine had made Dragon Cave Mountain look even more beautiful than normal. This place was indeed a paradise for secluded cultivation, not much worse than Dai Yuan's Thousand Illusion Peak back in Colored Glass sect. She really could not figure out how these few people had changed a barren mountain into something like this. Dai Yuan had heard that there was no one interested in this land before, but now it had become famous as a local cultivation holy land with many people clamoring to join it. However, the cultivators here did not accept outsiders, nor did they show any intention to grow or develop their forces. They all simply live and cultivate it here. This was a wise approach. After all, this place was inside Shadow Moon Hall's jurisdiction. If they really tried to establish a force here, Shadow Moon Hall would not just sit back and ignore them. Considering all this, Dai Yuan laughed lightly. With Yang Kai in charge here, given his intelligence and means, he would certainly not engage in this kind of self-destructive practice, making her worries superfluous. After indulging in some flights of fancy for a while, Dai Yuan found her mood much calmer, raising her head up to observe the early morning sky. Bringing her gaze back down, though, she still saw no trace of the figure she was waiting for. Dai Yuan sighed, knowing that she was waiting here for nothing. However, she did not have any feelings of resentment or unwillingness, and only a slight bitter smile crept onto her face while her heart filled with helplessness. Just as she was preparing to leave, though, her expression suddenly changed, and she looked back out the window again. In that instant, Dai Yuan's eyes brightened, shock and joy flashing across their depths as she stared down below at the approaching figure. "Sister Dai Yuan, good morning." Yang Kai stood outside with a smile on his face and waved up at her. Dai Yuan was stunned for a while but soon adjusted her expression and gently nodded to Yang Kai. "Good morning to you as well, junior brother Yang. Please wait a moment. I'll be right down." Saying so, she quickly turned around and walked down to the first floor of the loft. Although her expression was calm and steady, her swift gait showed her inner tension. She did not know what kind of answer Yang Kai would give her, but if he was simply planning on rejecting, was it necessary to show up so early in the morning? On the other hand, his perfunctory manner the other day was obvious, so even if Yang Kai refused her, Dai Yuan wouldn't be surprised. But if he was here to agree to her request, what had changed? Dai Yuan did not believe she had done anything to convince him at all. As conflicting thoughts filled her heart, Dai Yuan soon reached the first floor of the loft, but after meeting eyes with Yang Kai, she suddenly found herself at a loss for words. Sister Dai Yuan, do you have anything to clean up? If not, we should set off. Yang Kai smiled to her warmly. Ah! Dai Yuan froze for a moment, too startled to respond. Yang Kai chuckled and continued, What's wrong? Didn't Sister Dai Yuan want me to accompany you back to Colored Glass Sect? Perhaps Dragon Cave Mountain scenery has captivated you, and you do not want to leave right away? If so, why not stay a few days longer? No, it's not that. Dai Yuan responded hastily while waving her hands, her eyes filled surprise. Although the scenery here is quite beautiful and I admire it greatly, it's just that Sister Dai Yuan is wondering why I'm agreeing to go with you. Yang Kai looked at Dai Yuan with a smile, laying bare her doubts. Dai Yuan couldn't help looking a little embarrassed. She originally asked Yang Kai to go with her to Colored Glass Sect, but now that he had agreed, she was acting suspicious, which came off as a bit rude. It's simple actually. Yang Kai had already prepared an excuse and fluidly said, After returning from the flowing flame sand field, I've been secluded and I felt that now was a good time to go out and move around. I have reached a bottleneck in my progress, so just remaining in seclusion won't be of help to me. You are also clear about my origins, so it shouldn't come as a surprise that I'm curious about the various great sects on Shadowed Star. Now that I have such an opportunity to observe one up close, naturally I don't want to miss it. Hearing this, Dai Yuan's doubts were easily dispelled, and she smiled warmly. I understand. My Colored Glass Sect is not weak on Shadowed Star, but it is also not comparable to Heaven Battling Union or Thunder Typhoon Sect. Another day, when Junior Brother Yang has an opportunity to look at Heaven Battling Union and Thunder Typhoon Sect, you will understand that my Colored Glass Sect is still a bit lacking. However, Junior Brother Yang having reached a bottleneck in his cultivation really emphasizes your amazing aptitude. Dai Yuan's words were completely heartfelt. When she and Yang Kai had traveled together in the flowing flame sand field, he was just a first-order Saint King. Although she did not know what happened to him after they separated, obviously Yang Kai had been able to break through. It wasn't too surprised for him to have reached the second-order Saint King realm, but now, apparently, he had reached the peak of the second order. It seemed that the opportunities Yang Kai obtained in the flowing flame sand field were not small. How else could his cultivation have grown so fast? Dai Yuan thought secretly, but when one reached a bottleneck, going out for a walk was the right course of action. Understanding all this, Dai Yuan smiled and said, I have nothing to clean up, so we can set out immediately. Colored Glass Sect isn't close, so even if we make use of a space array, the journey will take about a month. That is fine. My main objective for going out is to relax, so time isn't a problem. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, I'm not the only one who will be going with you. Yang Yan will also be joining me. That won't be a problem, will it? Yang Kai suddenly asked. Sister Yang Yan? Naturally, there's no problem for her to come. Dai Yuan heard this and immediately agreed, turning her head and seeing the black-robed Yang Yan standing nearby like a dark yet delicate flower. Yang Kai took the initiative to explain. My junior sister is very interested in spirit arrays, so she was hoping to come with me to see some of the grand spirit arrays of your noble sect and try to learn something from them. You understand, don't you? Women are... Ahem. I couldn't convince her otherwise, so I can only take her with me. Yang Kai originally wanted to say that women never stop nagging. But just as the words were leaving his mouth, he realized he had made a critical mistake and hastily choked them back down, causing Dai Yuan to give him a somewhat accusatory look. He had forgotten for a moment that Dai Yuan was also a woman. Yang Yan's external identity was Yang Kai's junior sister, which Yang Kai had previously mentioned to Chen Tong. With Dai Yuan easily agreeing, Yang Kai did not hesitate and beckoned to Yang Yan, all three of them summoning their own star shuttles and rushing out of Dragon Cave Mountain soon after. With both Yang Kai and Yang Yan out of Dragon Kai Mountain, Wuyi was left in charge, but with the token to control all the spirit arrays Yang Yan had arranged in advance, Wuyi shouldn't have a problem defending this place unless a truly powerful enemy came to attack. But this was unlikely, as Dragon Cave Mountain simply had no great enemies. Soon, the trio arrived in Heavenly Fate City. When Dai Yuan came here, she had flown directly from Colored Glass Sect without using any space arrays. Her saying to Yang Kai 3 days ago that no one knew she had come here was not a lie. In fact, not even Wei Guchang or Dong Xianer, who were in retreat, had any idea Dai Yuan had come to Dragon Cave Mountain. It was because she had flown all the way from Colored Glass Sect that it took her so long to arrive. Fortunately, Shadow Moon Hall had good relations with Colored Glass Sect, and Dai Yuan held a certain amount of status, so it was not too difficult for the three of them to use Heavenly Fate City's space array. After paying a certain amount of Saint Crystals, the space array was opened to the three of them. After passing through the space array of several cities in succession, Dai Yuan led Yang Kai and Yang Yen the rest of the way via Star Shuttle. The trio's pace was as swift as lightning, but the journey itself was quite dull. Dai Yuan was not one for conversation in the first place. If she had not been seeking help from Yang Kai, she would not have tried to make friends with him in the flowing flame sand field. Yang Yen, on the other hand, seemed to be innately timid, afraid of being seen or talking to others, so as a result, these two women remained silent most of the time, only speaking a few words to Yang Kai now and again as they rushed forward. Realizing this, Yang Kai also turned silent and focused on continuing to cultivate his golden blood threads while secretly urging the power of the artifact spirit and the origin grade artifact refining furnace to speed up the process of refining the dragon bone and dragon bead. Along the way, he did not waste any time, making full use of every moment. The more he refined his golden blood threads, the more interested Yang Kai became in Demon Blood Temple's Demon Blood Thread technique. This divine ability seemed to be tailored specifically for him, so it was a shame he had only managed to obtain the first half of it. However, he had established a relationship with the Demon Blood Temple disciple Deng Ning before, so in the future, he might have an opportunity to obtain the second half of this technique, but that was something to consider only after he became much stronger. A month quickly passed by as the trio hurried along with their journey being smooth and unremarkable. On this day, while Yang Kai was sitting on his star shuttle, silently refining his golden blood threads, and urging the power of the artifact refining furnace, Dai Yuan, who was leading the way, slowed her star shuttle to a stop. Seeing this, Yang Kai stopped what he was doing and brought his star shuttle to a halt as well, with Yang Yen following suit. The two of them hovered shoulder to shoulder as they stared towards the distance where they saw the vague outline of a vast mountain range. Yang Kai's anticipation rose as he knew that Colored Glass Sect should be situated amongst these mountains. We're almost there. The main entrance to Colored Glass Sect is just 1,000 kilometers ahead. Please follow me. Dai Yuan turned around and urged, immediately flying her star shuttle forward, but instead of traveling in a straight path, Dai Yuan would change directions from time to time, seemingly to avoid some kind of barrier. Yang Kai wasn't surprised by this. After all, Colored Glass Sect was a great force, so it was natural for them to arrange a grand spirit array within the surrounding 1,000-kilometer radius of their sect. Only a great sect would have the financial resources and strength to arrange such a sect-protecting array. But when Yang Kai glanced back at Yang Yen, he noticed a trace of disdain on her face. Obviously, she didn't take this barrier seriously. Of course, this was only the case for Yang Yen. Although Yang Kai could also notice some subtle energy fluctuations around him, he was not able to see any of the spirit array's finer details, meaning that if he wanted to break it, he could only use brute force. 1,000 kilometers was not far, and after half an incense stick worth of time, the trio arrived at the rolling mountain range Yang Kai had seen before. Having arrived here, Dai Yuan seemed to become a lot more enthusiastic and began treating Yang Kai as a guest, flying side by side with him, and actively explaining, "This is the Grand Crystal Mountain Range controlled by my Colored Glass Sect. It stretches across more than 100,000 kilometers and has no less than 1,000 big and small spirit peaks. The various peaks are assigned to sect elders and disciples based on their strength and status. Naturally, some of the mountains here are vacant or for other purposes. The heart of Grand Crystal Mountain Range is where the greatest number of Colored Glass Sect's disciples congregate to trade or exchange cultivation experiences. It is also there that the sect or its disciples put up tasks for the others to take on, like searching for materials or forming groups to travel together with. It's normally a lively scene." When Dai Yuan talked about these things, a look of longing appeared on her face. Yang Kai did not show anything on the surface, but from the strange behavior Dai Yuan was exhibiting, he realized that this woman seemed to have difficulties communicating with others, and was even somewhat envious of their community life. Perhaps in Colored Glass sect, she felt isolated. Yang Kai felt somewhat sorry for her, but he wisely held his tongue. Dai Yuan quickly composed herself and smiled. I live on Thousand Illusion Peak. Although it's a rather remote peak, it's calm and peaceful. Thousand Illusion Peak is not very big, but it's more than large enough for me to live on by myself. On top of that, the world energy aura is not thin, so it can be regarded as quite a high-grade mountain in the sect. Yang Kai nodded lightly. As Dai Yuan flew forward, he swept his eyes left and right to get a broader view of Colored Glass sect scenery. Many of the mountains they passed over had traces of activity, with Colored Glass sect disciples moving to and fro or practicing various martial skills or techniques. There were many people socializing with one another or comparing notes, bringing a sense of vitality to the mountains, with grand buildings standing proudly among all the peaks, exuding a noble and magnificent atmosphere. Yang Kai couldn't help sighing to himself as he felt this scene was worthy of one of Shadowed Star's great forces. The kind of power and prestige that permeated the air was incomparable to that of Dragon Cave Mountain. Although Dragon Cave Mountain was not bad right now and could be considered a prosperous land, compared to this Grand Crystal Mountain range it seemed a bit quaint. If even Colored Glass sect had this kind of atmosphere, what would the other, more powerful sects on Shadowed Star be like? Yang Kai had not seen Shadow Moon Hall's headquarters, but he estimated that it wouldn't be worse than this place. I heard that your noble sect has a famous landmark called the Thousand Illusion Colored Glass Mountain, and that it is an amazing sight to behold. Where would it be? Yang Kai asked seemingly casually. Since he was targeting Colored Glass Mountain, naturally he had to determine its location first. Yang Kai had been observing his surroundings since they arrived, but he had yet to discover anything special about the mountains he had seen. So he concluded that none of them could be Thousand Illusion Colored Glass Mountain. Junior brother Yang actually knows about our Colored Glass Mountain? A look of surprise flashed across Dai Yuan's eyes. Sister Dai Yuan must be joking. Although this Yang is a newcomer to this place, I'm not completely ignorant. Your noble sect's Thousand Illusion Colored Glass Mountain's reputation is quite resounding, so I have naturally heard a bit about it. I heard that the entire mountain is made from Thousand Illusion Colored Glass. Is that really true? Listening to Yang Kai ask about Colored Glass Mountain, Dai Yuan's eyes seemed to take on a somewhat complex look, but she quickly adjusted her expression and, after pondering for a moment, gently nodded and said, My sect's Thousand Illusion Colored Glass Mountain is indeed a single giant piece of Thousand Illusion Colored Glass. Its weight and value are simply inestimable. Although Thousand Illusion Colored Glass is extremely valuable, and everyone knows that my Colored Glass sect has such a treasure mountain, all of them find us quite laughable as we cannot even make use of a tiny fraction of its might. On top of that, it is impossible to collect large quantities of Thousand Illusion Colored Glass. Only a small amount of it can be harvested through a special method every dozen year or so. This information was basically the same as what Yang Yen had previously told Yang Kai, so Yang Kai was not surprised. There's some kind of special method necessary to collect it? Yang Kai asked seemingly unintentionally. An awkward look appeared on Dai Yuan's face when she heard this question. Yang Kai laughed and waved his hand. It seems that I've asked something I should not have. Sister Dai Yuan can pretend like you never heard me. Dai Yuan smiled apologetically. It's not that I don't want to explain, but this method is listed as one of the core secrets of the sect, so no one can disclose it to outsiders. Once someone leaks this information, they will suffer unimaginable punishment, so I can only ask for Junior Brother Yang's understanding. It's fine. It was I who was being indiscreet. It seemed that, because of this incident, Dai Yuan felt a sense of guilt, and after thinking about it, she proposed, Thousand Illusion Colored Glass Mountain isn't nearby, but if we take a longer route, we can see it from a distance. If Junior Brother Yang does not mind, how about we make a slight detour? Apparently, she wanted to use this as a kind of apology, and Yang Kai actually couldn't have asked for a better outcome. But on the surface, he maintained a hesitant look and asked, Is that all right? Thousand Illusion Colored Glass Mountain is the most precious treasure of your noble sect. If this will cause any trouble for Sister Dai Yuan, then there is no need for us to go. In any case, I was simply curious and felt it would be an eye-opening experience. Heh. As Yang Kai let out a hollow laugh, Yang Yen, who was quietly standing behind him, reached out and pinched his waist, clearly blaming him. Naturally, this small gesture was not missed by Dai Yuan, and after a bit of thought, she turned her beautiful eyes to Yang Yen and said with a smile, "There's nothing wrong with it. We'll just be taking a glance at it from a distance. Naturally, my martial uncles standing guard there won't blame us for something so minor. This way, Brother Yang." Saying so, Dai Yuan immediately changed direction. Yang Kai turned his head, glared at Yang Yen, then hurried to keep up. Yang Yen curled her lips meaningfully as an aloof expression appeared on her face. The group of three had only flown a short distance, though, before several azure streaks of light soared up to intercept them. A moment later, these blue lights arrived in front of Yang Kai and the others. 3 of them were men while 2 were women, all of them with somewhat low cultivations, 2 saints and 3 transcendents. This kind of cultivation would be second to none in Tongxian realm, but on Shadowed Star it really did not count for anything. After seeing Dai Yuan's face clearly, the 5 people could not help revealing a trace of surprise before hurriedly cupping their fists and offering polite greetings. "So it is Martial Ant Dai Yuan? Juniors greet Martial Ant." Martial Ant. Hearing the way they addressed Dai Yuan, Yang Kai could not help his brow from rising slightly. But after thinking about it for a bit, he understood. Although Dai Yuan was a disciple in the younger generation of Colored Glass sect, that was only compared with the top masters at the Origin Returning Realm. With her cultivation and status, she was indeed qualified to be addressed as Martial Ant by these 5. After offering their greetings, the young man who spoke first turned his attention to Yang Kai and Yang Yen. Seeing Yang Yen did not elicit much of a reaction, but Yang Kai's presence caused a look of surprise to surface on this young man's face. Are the 5 of you responsible for guarding this area?" Dai Yuan nodded and asked faintly. "Reporting to Martial Ant, the surrounding 50-kilometer region is our 5's responsibility." The young man in the lead continued to answer, hesitating for a moment before asking cautiously, "May I ask, Martial Ant, these 2 are—" "They are my guests. You don't need to concern yourselves about them. If the elders ask, just answer them so." "Yes." The lead young man did not dare to ask anything more and immediately made way. Dai Yuan also did not say another word and simply led Yang Kai and Yang Yen away. After the figures of Dai Yuan, Yang Kai, and Yang Yen disappeared, the 5 young cultivators exchanged looks of surprise and uncertainty. "Was that Martial Ant Dai Yuan who lives on Thousand Illusion Peak?" asked one of the women who looked around 20 years old and was wearing a light yellow dress. "Yes, that was her. I'd heard that she was an astonishing beauty. So how could—" "Hush!" The lead young man suddenly shot a harsh glare at this young woman before quickly glancing around nervously. After not finding anyone around, though, he scolded harshly, "You dare comment on this matter? Are you in a rush to die?" The woman's face went pale, as if she suddenly remembered something, fear gripping her heart. The lead young man let out a forlorn sigh. "All of you only entered the sect recently, so you've only heard rumors about certain things. But you need to remember that not everything you hear is true, and that some things cannot be spoken about rashly. Make sure you don't commit any taboos. Otherwise you'll never be able to lift your head inside the sect again. Understand?" And all 4 of the others nodded, their expressions serious. However, for Martial Ant Dai Yuan to actually invite guests here, it certainly is quite unusual, the young man seemed to say to himself as he shook his head. Those who occupied Thousand Illusion Peak seldom left the sect and rarely interacted with others. There were not even rumors about Dai Yuan being close to any of the sect's female disciples, much less any males. Yet now she had brought back a male friend. Naturally, it was suspicious. Of course, this young man only thought about this matter for a moment before putting it aside. This was not an issue he could stick his nose into. If the elders were to ask him anything, all he could do was report the truth and leave any follow-up to them. Thinking so, he waved his hand and continued to lead the other 4 members of his team on their patrol. It was a 200-meter tall hill that was completely gray and barren, with not a single blade of grass or tree on it, as if it was completely composed of dull rocks. This hill was in a mountain valley, surrounded by several other taller peaks. At first glance, there was nothing noteworthy about it. But when Xianxia swept it with his divine sense, he was shocked to discover that it was like peering into a bottomless sea. The hill which was clearly in front of him seemingly did not exist and could not be probed or detected at all with divine sense. Not only that though, but there was also a strange power that pulsed from this hill that seemed to pull on one's soul, giving a frightening feeling that it was being drawn out and swallowed. As such, after only slightly using his divine sense, Xianxia immediately withdrew it. Right now, the trio was standing nearly 10 kilometers away from this hill, gazing at this most precious treasured mountain of colored glass sect. "Is that your noble sect's famed thousand illusion-colored glass mountain?" Xianxia asked with a slightly puzzled look upon his face. "And this is thousand illusion-colored glass mountain. I have shown Brother Yang something embarrassing. Thousand illusion-colored glass mountain is indeed famous across all Shadowed Star, but most of the time it has this appearance and looks completely unremarkable, totally different from in the rumors. As such, whenever someone from outside the sect sees it, they find themselves disappointed." Dai Yuan smiled and explained softly. "It appears like this most of the time?" Xianxia narrowed his eyes. "Thousand illusion-colored glass has many unpredictable and mysterious abilities, so what we see right now is probably just one of the forms of this colored glass mountain." Yang Yen, who had almost not spoken since the trio left Dragon Cave Mount, suddenly spoke up here. Dai Yuan gave her a surprised look and nodded. "It seems that Sister Yang Yen knows a lot about our colored glass mountain, and this humble state is just one of its forms. There are times when it will spontaneously emit thousands of dazzling rays of light, making it seem like an exceptionally beautiful object not from this world. Other times it can change its own size. It's all very strange." "Such things actually happen?" Xianxia suddenly became interested. Yang Yan's lips curled slightly and didn't explain further, instead asking casually, "The spirit array arranged here is quite amazing. Does it have some kind of suppressive effect?" Dai Yuan heard this and gently nodded. "Yeah, one of the effects of the spirit array here is to suppress colored glass mountain. While it truly is our sect's greatest treasure, we actually cannot completely control it, so our only option is to suppress it here. Otherwise, if it underwent some strange change it might just disappear, resulting in us losing it forever." Explaining until here, Dai Yuan smiled and said, "And we can't stay here any longer. The several seniors who are responsible for guarding Colored Glass Mountain have already noticed us. If continue to linger, they may come to question us. It's best we leave now." Xianxia had also felt that since the three of them stopped here, several divine senses belonging to Origin returning realm masters had been sweeping them from various directions. However, these divine senses were only monitoring them and did not show any signs of acting. As such, he was not surprised by Dai Yuan's suggestion. Dai Yuan turned around and flew off in a different direction than they had come. Xianxia and Yang Yen followed her, the two of them exchanging a glance with Yang Yen nodding lightly. It seems she had determined that the spirit arrays here would not pose a problem to the stone puppet. All they needed to do now was go to Thousand Illusion Peak with Dai Yuan, then find an opportunity to release the stone puppet and wait to collect their harvest. Although Xianxia didn't know what Yang Yen wanted to refine with this Thousand Illusion colored glass, or what was so great about this Thousand Illusion colored glass in the first place, seeing colored glass sect treat that strange hill so seriously, how could he not at least understand that it was incredibly valuable? Along the way, the trio met a lot of colored glass sect disciples, but Xianxia soon noticed something strange. Whenever these colored glass sect disciples saw Dai Yuan, they would show a myriad of complicated expressions. Some people showed looks of dread, while others showed looks of panic, still others showed looks of sympathy, and so on. On top of that, almost every one of these colored glass sect disciples recognized Dai Yuan. This point was one that Xianxia cared about in particular. After all, according to Dai Yuan's character, she should rarely interact with others. Yet her name seemed to resound quite loudly though colored glass sect, and it was obvious that she was well known by these people. From all of this, Xianxia secretly felt that Dai Yuan's position in colored glass sect was much more complicated than he first imagined. Following Dai Yuan, The trio flew over the Grand Crystal Mountain range for about half an hour before arriving at a relatively remote peak. Seeing this 300-meter-tall mountain from afar, Dai Yuan's tense expression finally relaxed, as if she had returned home after a difficult journey. Pointing to the peak, she enthusiastically introduced it to Yang Kai and Yang Yan. "This is Thousand Illusion Peak, where I live. It's a bit crude, but I hope junior brother Yang and sister Yang Yan won't mind. Sister Dai Yuan is too polite." Yang Kai laughed heartily before following her towards the mountain. Before arriving at this peak, Yang Kai used his divine sense to scan it and quickly discovered that there was no one else present. It seemed that only Dai Yuan lived on this Thousand Illusion Peak, without even any maidservants to help her. Not long after, the trio landed on a kind of boardwalk that was built on the mountainside of Thousand Illusion Peak. This boardwalk was extremely narrow, allowing only one person to pass through at a time, and seemed quite unsteady. The planks it was made from wobbling as if it might collapse at any point. Yang Kai and Yang Yan obviously would not care about such minor details though, and simply enjoyed the scenery as they walked this path. While this Thousand Illusion Peak was indeed somewhat remote, the scenery here was eye-catching. Beautiful and refreshing like a spring day with lush verdant greenery and moderate temperatures. The world energy aura was also not thin, even better than Dragon Cave Mountain. Such a place was only considered a high-grade spirit peak in Colored Glass sect, so what would the best quality peaks be like? Yang Kai suddenly couldn't help remembering the ruins of the ancient sect in the fourth layer of the Flowing Flame Sand Field. Shouldn't the world energy aura there be even denser? The boardwalk was not very long, and after a few twists and turns, the trio came to its end and found themselves facing a stone wall. This stone wall was perfectly smooth, as if someone had used a sharp weapon to cleanly slice it. Arriving here, Dai Yuan suddenly came to a halt. Yang Kai looked around suspiciously. Yang Yan, however, was actually able to see something more and whispered, "There's a spirit array here. You can enter the stone wall by opening the spirit array. The layout is quite exquisite, so it must have been arranged by a true array master." Yang Yan didn't try to conceal her voice, so after Dai Yuan heard her, she turned back and smiled. "Sister Yang Yan seems to be very proficient in spirit arrays. If you wanna, you can study the spirit array at will. In any case, my Thousand Illusion Peak doesn't usually have any visitors, so you need not worry about being disturbed." Throughout their journey together, Yang Yan had only taken the initiative to speak twice, and both times it had been related to spirit arrays. Naturally, Dai Yuan could tell that Yang Yan was quite interested in this profession, so she allowed Yang Yan to freely study the spirit arrays here, which was akin to selling Yang Kai a favor. Yang Yan did not show anything on her face or make a reply, but Dai Yuan was not bothered by this. Summoning a jade token into her hand in the next moment, Dai Yuan poured her Saint Chi into it before tossing it forward. A strange scene took place next as the jade token turned into a green light, shot into the smooth stone wall, and disappeared. Immediately, a slight buzzing sound rang out, and a platform extended from the smooth stone wall. Beyond this platform, a tunnel had appeared leading into the interior of the mountain. This tunnel was lined with glowing stones, so it didn't appear even the slightest bit dim. "Junior brother Yang, sister Yang Yan, please come inside." Dai Yuan smiled slightly before flying up and landing on the stone platform. Seeing this, Yang Kai jumped up as well and peered into the tunnel before him, wondering to himself if he should get Yang Yan to arrange such a spirit array for his own cave mansion. But thinking about it a bit, he felt doing so was a bit superfluous and shook his head. Just as Dai Yuan was about to lead Yang Kai and Yang Yan into the belly of the mountain, she suddenly stopped and looked off into the distance, her expression growing cold, gloomy, and displeased in the next instant. Seeing this, Yang Kai also looked over to where she was staring and saw an azure streak of light rapidly approaching. Clearly someone was flying over on a star shuttle. Yang Kai's divine sense was incredibly powerful, so after a slight investigation, he was able to learn who the owner of this star shuttle was. But this only caused a strange expression to appear on his face. "Junior brother Yang, sister Yang Yan, please wait a moment. It seems someone has come looking for me." Dai Yuan smiled reluctantly while standing in place and quietly waited. A moment later, the azure streak arrived directly to the front of the stone platform, and the person standing atop the star shuttle let out a silver bell-like laughter. The one who appeared was an incredibly beautiful young woman with a graceful figure and a pair of beautiful eyes that seemed capable of drawing out the souls of any who gazed into them. She exuded a kind of infinite charm that, coupled with her pleasant laughter, made it impossible for others not to admire her. In Su Dai, the one who had suddenly rushed over, had turned out to be the most famous disciple of Colored Glass sect, In Su Dai. Yang Kai had met this woman a few times, so naturally he was able to recognize her. Also, inside the flowing flame sand field, he had noticed that there was unpleasantness between her and Dai Yuan. What she had suddenly come here to do, though, was a complete mystery to him. Moreover, her timing was too perfect to be a coincidence. Dai Yuan had only just returned to Thousand Illusion Peak when In Su Dai rushed over. In Su Dai's beautiful eyes glanced around lightly and seemed to contain a kind of innate attraction, causing men to be instinctually drawn to her. After sweeping Yang Kai and Yang Yen for a moment, she turned her attention to Dai Yuan. "Senior sister, you've returned?" Dai Yuan did not give her any face and bluntly asked, "What are you doing here? Can I not come here?" In Su Dai covered his mouth and smiled tenderly. Although this Thousand Illusion Peak is Senior Sister's residence, it is also part of the sect's territory. I am the first core disciple of the sect's younger generation, so besides a few restricted areas, I can naturally go wherever I please. Moreover, little sister heard that Senior Sister had just come back, so I immediately rushed over to welcome you home. I did not want to delay, as that might upset Senior Sister. Could it be Senior Sister does not welcome little sister? As she spoke like this, a forlorn look appeared on her face, one that could elicit great pity from any who saw it. It was to the point where even if she had committed some great wrong, others would find it impossible to blame her. A beguiling technique. Light flashed across Yang Kai's eyes. It was the first time he learned that this In Su Dai actually used beguiling techniques, and from what he could tell, she was quite proficient in them. No wonder she seemed to exude an unusually powerful charm every time he saw her. It turns out it was because she cultivated beguiling techniques. Listening to In Su Dai saying this, Dai Yuan's expression sank as she shouted, "You were monitoring me?" In Su Dai brushed her hair carelessly and said with a laugh, "How could Senior Sister ask such a thing? Little sister was only worried about Senior Sister. Last time, Senior Sister went out without saying anything or telling anyone. Not even Honored Master knew about it. So it's only natural that little sister had some people pay attention to Senior Sister's whereabouts. When I received word that Senior Sister had returned safely a moment ago, I was naturally overjoyed. Not just little sister, though. Honored Master was also very happy to hear Senior Sister had returned, and even said she wanted to see you as soon as possible. Honored Master." Dai Yuan's face flashed a complex look and seemingly became uninterested in arguing with In Su Dai anymore, simply asking, "Instead of staying on 100 Butterfly Peak, you actually ran all the way over here for some idle chatter? Must I have some other reason to visit?" In Su Dai replied lightly, her eyes then suddenly lighting up, as if she remembered something, and quickly said, "That's right. There is something good I need to share with Senior Sister. Honored Master has asked Grandmaster Xiao to refine an origin condensing pill, and although the first two furnaces were, unfortunately, failures, Grandmaster Xiao said that the next refinement should have an 80% certainty of success. At that time, little sister will have to enter retreat to break through to the origin returning realm, so I won't have time to come chat with Senior Sister anymore. If Senior Sister feels lonely, how about letting little sister arrange a few maids to accompany you?" The innocent smile on her face seemed to imply that she was simply thinking about Dai Yuan's feelings while trying to be a good sister. But anyone could hear the self-satisfaction and pride in her words. "An origin condensing pill?" Dai Yuan nodded indifferently. "I must congratulate Junior Sister then. It was all thanks to Senior Sister who retrieved several stalks of emerald silk grass from the flowing flame sand field. If not for those, no origin condensing pills could be refined. Unfortunately, little sister wasn't as lucky and didn't manage to find a single emerald silk grass." Saying so, she shook her head and sighed, seemingly quite distraught. Dai Yuan's lips suddenly curled into a sneer, not caring at all that the emerald silk grass she worked so hard to find had actually been used on In Su Dai and instead just said, "Is that all? If so, then junior sister should return. Since you are preparing to break through to the origin returning realm, you should, of course, make appropriate preparations. Otherwise, if you were to fail, it would surely disappoint honored master's efforts." The smile on In Su-dai's face disappeared and was replaced by a cold glower. She hadn't even attempted to break through yet, but Dai Yuan was actually implying she would fail. Although it was only a few casual words, it was still a rather uncomfortable barb. "Senior sister has guests to entertain, so I won't see you off." Dai Yuan ignored In Su-dai's glare and directly asked her to leave. However, In Su-dai didn't have any intention of just letting things go. Seeing how her nettling of Dai Yuan had no effect, she swept her beautiful eyes around and actually stared at Yang Kai, asking with a smile, "This little brother seems familiar. Have we met before?" Yang Kai wore a startled expression upon being spoken to. He hadn't expected that just after arriving in Colored Glass Sect, he would actually be dragged into the senior sister-junior sister dispute, but not caring either way, he grinned and replied, "Yes, I've met Sister Een several times now. This one has long admired Sister Een, but unfortunately, I am just an unknown man. Sister Een should not mind me." In Su-dai heard him say this, and a smile blossomed on her face as a light giggle escaped her lips, apparently quite satisfied with Yang Kai's flattery. Dai Yuan, on the other hand, frowned as she looked at Yang Kai strangely. As for Yang Yen, she simply stood to the side without saying or doing anything, as if she didn't even exist. "And I remember now, you were the one together with Wei Guchang at that time. Since when did you come to know senior sister though?" In Su-dai's voice suddenly became soft and melodious. Others might not have noticed anything, but when Yang Kai heard these words, he felt like the blood in his veins began flowing faster, as if In Su-dai's sweet voice was whispering directly into his ear, and invisible hands were gently caressing his cheeks. "I met her in the Flowing Flame Sand Field." Yang Kai nodded and answered very cooperatively, "I see, but since senior sister invited you here as a guest, it seems your relationship is not simple." In Su-dai made a thinly veiled probe, but before Yang Kai even had a chance to respond, she smiled even more charmingly and a strange light flashed across her eyes, one that seemed to penetrate into Yang Kai's mind. Exhaling an orchid scent, In Su-dai continued to ask, "If little brother doesn't mind, how about coming to visit my 100 Butterfly Peak? Although my 100 Butterfly Peak is not near here, its scenery will surely not disappoint." Yang Kai's eyes glazed over for a moment before his face flushed abnormally and he began nodding vigorously. "Sounds amazing. I couldn't ask for anything more." As he spoke these words, the corner of his mouth seemed to leak some drool and a lustful look appeared on his face. "In Su-dai." Dai Yuan suddenly snarled, knowing that Yang Kai should have been affected by her junior sister's beguiling technique. Pushing her Saint Chi fiercely, Dai Yuan glared dangerously at In Su-dai, as if she would attack if the latter didn't immediately withdraw her technique. "What's the matter?" In Su-dai glanced over innocently at Dai Yuan, while continuing to send out an invisible aura filled with 10,000 kinds of charm towards Yang Kai. At that moment, 2 jets of hot air spewed from Yang Kai's nostrils and he dashed forward, arriving in front of In Su-dai in the blink of an eye. Immediately, both In Su-dai and Dai Yuan were stunned, and under their astonished gazes, Yang Kai grabbed In Su-dai's 2 jade-white hands. In that instant, Yang Kai gripped these 2 delicate hands violently. Seemingly grasping the most important treasure in his life, Yang Kai refused to let go, his eyes exuding a terrible fiery color as the temperature of his body rose significantly. In Su-dai froze up and Dai Yuan was equally dumbfounded. When Yang Kai rushed over, Dai Yuan and In Su-dai both wanted to block him, but neither of them were able to, and by the time they had recovered from their initial surprise, Yang Kai had already caught In Su-dai's hands. Feeling sharp pain from her hands and seeing the madness in the eyes of the boorish man standing in front of her, In Su-dai became furious and rapidly began condensing her Saint Chi. But in the next moment, she calmed down and with watery eyes, she leaned into Yang Kai and whimpered, "You're hurting me?" "Ah!" Yang Kai was shocked, and a look of extreme guilt appeared on his face. But his hands still continued to stubbornly grasp In Su-dai's, and no matter how she struggled, she couldn't free herself, kneading her delicate and soft hands with an obsessed expression. Yang Kai continued to call out, There, it doesn't hurt anymore, does it? I happen to have time now. How about we go to your 100 Butterfly Peak now? Your senior sister is fine in any case. There's no need to stay here. Hee. In Su Dai let out a hollow laugh. Although she wished to slap Yang Kai away, she actually strongly suppressed the anger in her heart, the strange light in her eyes growing even stronger as she tried to withdraw from Yang Kai's eyes. Didn't you just invite me over? What are we waiting for? Unexpectedly, Yang Kai began urging her even more forcefully, seemingly unable to wait to go back to 100 Butterfly Peak with her. Seeing this, In Su Dai's complexion changed, and she was no longer willing to act patiently, circulating her Saint Chi through her hands. She finally broke free from Yang Kai's grasp and took advantage of this opportunity to flutter a dozen meters away, hiding her two small hands in her sleeves so others couldn't see them. But having been clenched in Yang Kai's grasp for so long, they certainly weren't in good shape. Glaring at Yang Kai, who still seemed to be caught in her beguiling technique, a cold light flickered across In Su Dai's eyes. However, in a flash, Dai Yuan came between her and Yang Kai and said coldly, Junior sister, please leave. In Su Dai clenched her teeth and took a deep breath, her rich capital heaving mesmerizingly before she snorted lightly. Senior sister, don't forget to go pay your respects to honored master. She has been thinking about you since you left. Little sister will take her leave. After she finished speaking, she narrowed her phoenix eyes slightly, glared coldly at Yang Kai for a moment, as if to engrave his appearance into the depths of her soul before stomping her foot and departing atop her star shuttle. Only once she was a good distance away from Thousand Illusion Peak did In Su Dai take her hands out of her sleeves to check them, a single look causing her beautiful face to grow icy. Her two beautiful jade white hands, which had just moments ago could be described as flawless now, had large ugly bruises on them. She didn't know where that smelly man had come from, but it was obvious he didn't know the first thing about showing tender affection. He had actually used so much strength against her. This time she had gone to steal wool but ended up being shorn, even unable to launch a counterattack. It really made In Su Dai want to scream. Bearing a grudge against Yang Kai in her heart now, she was already thinking about how to seek revenge. Atop the stone platform on Thousand Illusion Peak, a group of 3 people stood silently. Yang Yan and Dai Yuan staring at Yang Kai's back while Yang Kai himself stared in the direction where In Su Dai disappeared, a look of regret upon his face. After a while, Yang Kai sighed leisurely and slowly shook his head. Turning around though, he saw the 2 women staring curiously at him and asked, What? Are there flowers growing on my face? Weren't you affected by her beguiling technique? If Dai Yuan couldn't see through what happened by now, she would have lived in vain all these years. How was Yang Kai's expression now the slightest bit confused? His eyes couldn't have been clearer. Beguiling technique? Yang Kai's mouth curled into a sneer. She picked the wrong person to target. Then you? Dai Yuan's eyes flashed as she smiled and shook her head. Your courage isn't small, actually taking the opportunity to take advantage of her. If she had seen through you, she would definitely not have let you off. Did she see through me though? Yang Kai chuckled. Thank you. Dai Yuan suddenly expressed her gratitude and sincerely thanked him. She knew that Yang Kai wouldn't do such a thing if he hadn't noticed the disagreement between them. Yang Kai waved his hand and snorted lightly. There's no need for you to thank me. She was the one who acted first. I simply fought back. Yang Kai wasn't interested in intervening in the grievances between these 2 apprentice sisters. This trip was mainly for the 1,000 illusion-colored glass mountain. Helping Dai Yuan was only because In Su Dai had dared to use her beguiling technique on him. If they weren't in colored glass sect, Yang Kai also wouldn't have let her off so easily. Dai Yuan smiled meaningfully next as she asked, How was the taste? Yang Kai's cheeks blushed slightly red as he said with a laugh. Not bad at all, worthy of Shadowed Star's famous beauty. Her skin was excellently maintained, soft and delicate to the touch. Seeing Yang Kai offer a frank admission, Dai Yuan could not stand it for long. snorting dismissively before turning around and leading Yang Kai and Yang Yen into the tunnel. Once inside, Dai Yuan put out her hand and injected her Saint Qi into a panel on the wall, causing the jade token that had previously disappeared to reappear. Immediately after, the flat stone wall that had opened silently closed. "Please come with me," Dai Yuan said lightly as she led Yang Kai and Yang Yen deeper into the mountain. After moving forward roughly 1,000 meters, a large cave appeared, one that was several thousand meters in diameter. It was as if the entire Thousand Illusion Peak had been hollowed out. But what was odd was that this cave didn't show any signs of artificial excavation. Yang Kai looked around and was surprised to discover that this cave really was naturally formed, and high up above, there were many thick and thin dark red columns that looked like pointed cones. These cones appeared quite threatening and would be quite dangerous should they ever fall. On the cave floor, though, there were similar pointed red columns going up from the ground, making it look as if this cavern was a complex and chaotic stone forest. "A natural spirit array," Yang Yen suddenly called out in surprise after she swept her gaze over these red columns, her eyes shining brightly as she began to fidget anxiously. Sister Yang Yan's eyes are truly sharp. Dai Yuan also stopped and looked back at Yang Yen with admiration, explaining a moment later, "Yes, there is indeed a natural spirit array inside this cave of Thousand Illusion Peak, but it only has some weak, bewildering, and illusionary effects." Yang Yen continued to look around for a while before asking, "Did someone modify this place's natural spirit array?" And it was the person who previously lived on Thousand Illusion Peak. As soon as Dai Yuan said this, her eyes became somewhat dull, but this quickly passed and she continued, "That person knew a little bit about spirit arrays, so they were able to slightly modify this natural spirit array to not only have a hallucinogenic effect but also some power to resist enemy intrusions." "Can I examine it?" Yang Yen asked, seemingly interested in this natural spirit array. "Nonsense!" Yang Kai shouted immediately, scolding Yang Yen. This place was Dai Yuan's private sanctuary, her home, so how could the protective spirit array here be examined by an outsider? This was a great taboo. However, Dai Yuan just smiled lightly and said, "Junior brother Yang doesn't need to worry. Since Sister Yang Yen is versed in spirit arrays, it is normal for her to be interested in this thing. After all, there aren't many naturally formed spirit arrays. Sister Yang Yen can examine this spirit array all she likes. It just so happens that I am not very proficient in spirit arrays, so since the senior who lived here passed away, although I lived here later, I am actually unable to control the spirit array and only know a safe way to enter and exit it. If Sister Yang Yen can decipher how this spirit array functions and teach it to me, I would actually be quite thankful." "So that's how it is." Yang Kai's expression cleared up. Since Dai Yuan intended to draw support from Yang Yan's strength, he did not try to stop her anymore, simply turning to Yang Yen and asking, "Is it possible?" Yang Yen snorted disdainfully and did not answer, instead just grabbing the edges of her black robe and dashing off into the red columns, her figure soon disappearing. Yang Kai could only smile bitterly, knowing that his questioning of Yang Yan's ability had made her angry. On the other hand, when Dai Yuan saw Yang Yen act with such confidence, she secretly began looking forward to the future. "Let's go, don't worry about her. In any case, we're already inside your domain. When she's finished studying this spirit array, she'll naturally come out on her own." Yang Kai smiled helplessly at Dai Yuan. "Good." Dai Yuan did not have any objections and continued to lead Yang Kai through the red columns. Not long after, the two crossed this large cave and entered another passageway through the mountain. Walking a short distance, the pair arrived at a stone chamber. As soon as he entered the stone room, Yang Kai was shocked by the strong pill and medicinal fragrance in the air. There were also 6 large and small alchemy furnaces placed in various locations. Seeing this, he suddenly remembered that Dai Yuan was also an alchemist. While traversing the flowing flame sand field, Wei Guchang had told him about it, and it was also the reason why Dai Yuan recognized the red candle fruit. However, since she had asked Yang Kai to come here, her alchemy grade should not be too high. Yang Kai was aware of this, but he knew not to mention it. "I've shown junior brother Yang something embarrassing. The things here must not be able to enter junior brother's eyes," Dai Yuan said with a smile. "Nonsense, Sister Dai Yuan's cave mansion is quite spectacular. Dragon Cave Mountain doesn't have anything comparable, Yang Kai said with a laugh. Junior brother Yang. Dai Yuan suddenly called out softly as she stared into his eyes. Does the outside world really have Origin King-grade alchemists? Yang Kai glanced over at her with some surprise, suddenly discovering that many people on Shadowed Star seemed to be interested in the outside world. He had been asked such questions more than once or twice since arriving on this star. After thinking about it for a moment, Yang Kai nodded. And the outside world does have Origin King-grade alchemists. Although I have never met one myself, I have heard about them. There are also Origin King-grade artifact refiners, Origin King realm masters, and even Star Master powerhouses. Star Masters. Dai Yuan eyes twinkled. The legendary cultivators who managed to refine a star source and become the master of an entire star? Yeah, but there should be very few of such people. I've heard that refining a star source is extremely dangerous and most Origin Kings don't dare attempt it easily as there is a risk they could perish in the attempt. So it's like that? Dai Yuan smiled and immediately said cheerfully, if there is a chance, Dai Yuan would like to ask junior brother Yang about the wonders of the outside world. At that time, I hope junior brother Yang will not refuse. Sure, when there is time, I will certainly not conceal anything. Yang Kai agreed refreshed. Although he didn't know much about the star field, he had still spent some time in the outside world, so he knew far more than the natives of Shadowed Star. Speaking about some minor issues would not be a problem. Dai Yuan did not ask anything more immediately, and instead quickly arranged a room for Yang Kai to rest in before asking him to adjust his condition for a few days while she went to see her honored master. After all, when Dai Yuan left Colored Glass Sect last time, she didn't tell anyone, and In Su Dai had just run over to tell her that her honored master wanted to see her. So naturally Dai Yuan couldn't keep her waiting for long. Yang Kai simply waved his hand and let her go. A short time later, Dai Yuan left Thousand Illusion Peak and disappeared into Grand Crystal Mountain Range. When he was certain Dai Yuan had left, Yang Kai opened his eyes from his meditation, and a sly light flashed across them. Waving his hand, a short figure appeared in front of him. Naturally, it was the stone puppet, who stood there looking at Yang Kai with a stern look, as if waiting for instructions. Do you know what to do? Yang Kai asked. The stone puppet tilted its head for a moment before nodding. Good. I'll tell you the location. Remember, if there is any danger or any possibility you'll be discovered, return immediately, don't alarm anyone. Yang Kai told him carefully before extending his finger to touch the stone puppet's forehead. A faint green point of light appeared at Yang Kai's fingertip, which was resting on the stone puppet's head. This green point of light was formed from Yang Kai's divine sense, contained the exact position of Thousand Illusion Colored Glass Mountain. Thousand Illusion Colored Glass Mountain was Colored Glass Sect's most precious treasure, so the protective spirit arrays around it would undoubtedly be strong. So although Yang Kai was quite confident in the stone puppet's ability to sneak in, there was still a change something would go wrong, so he warned it seriously. He did not want to lose a partner like the stone puppet just to steal little Thousand Illusion Colored Glass. Since it was born, the stone puppet had worked diligently and tirelessly. Where else would Yang Kai find such a good assistant? The green light filled with Yang Kai's divine sense quickly slipped into the stone puppet's head and disappeared. The stone puppet stood there innocently for a moment, seemingly digesting the information contained in this divine sense package. A short time later, the stone puppet's eyes circled once before its body shook, and it burrowed into the ground and silently vanished. By the time Yang Kai noticed it was gone, the stone puppet had already burrowed 1,000 meters into the ground, and after a short pause it dashed off in the direction of Thousand Illusion Colored Glass Mountain. The stone puppet had an innate talent to move through the earth, so underground there was nothing that could hinder its movements. After releasing the stone puppet, Yang Kai immediately reached out, closed the small hole in the ground, erasing any trace of it before continuing to silently meditate. Thinking about it for a moment, Yang Kai still had no idea what Dai Yuan wanted him to do, but with her personality, it should not be something too difficult for him. Even if it was something troublesome, Yang Kai could always refuse. In any case, his primary objective for coming here had already been achieved. All he needed to do was wait for the stone puppet to return. After understanding all this, Yang Kai immediately felt at ease. 3 days passed, but Yang Kai did not see a trace of Dai Yuan. Yang Yen, on the other hand, popped up, her eyes glowing with excitement. It seemed that she had profited greatly from studying the natural spirit array in the Grand Cave. Yang Kai did not ask anything though, because he wouldn't understand even if he did. With Dai Yuan still not back, Yang Yen simply occupied the room next to Yang Kai's to rest in. After waiting for another 2 days, Dai Yuan finally returned to Thousand Illusion Peak. However, what Yang Kai found strange was that Dai Yuan seemed exhausted, and the expression on her face was quite dispirited. Her eyes were also slightly puffy and red, making it obvious she had been crying. Even though she forced herself to appear cheerful, it could not completely erase the gloominess between her brows. Yang Kai did not know what happened to Dai Yuan for her to end up in such a state, but it apparently had something to do with her honored master. After all, Dai Yuan had gone to see her honored master before, only to return 5 days later in this miserable condition. It was incomprehensible. After Dai Yuan returned, she first went to Yang Yen to talk. A short time later, she obtained a token from Yang Yen, and her mood instantly improved. Yang Yen had not only deciphered the natural spirit array outside Dai Yuan's secluded home, but she had also improved its power by 30%, increased its functionality, and added a control mechanism. All of this made Dai Yuan extremely happy, while at the same time she was shocked by Yang Yan's prowess with spirit arrays. After this incident, her relationship with Yang Yen seemed to become extremely close, as if they were real sisters. This confused Yang Kai greatly and made him realize that a woman's thoughts would forever be beyond his understanding. On the road here, the two of them had been like old bottle gourds, not speaking a word to each other for an entire month. But now, because of a single spirit array, they were suddenly behaving in an incredibly friendly manner. Men could not act this way. After Dai Yuan returned, Yang Kai naturally began to ask her about what she wanted his help with, but Dai Yuan still seemed to have some reservations, only asking Yang Kai to wait a few days while she made some preparations. After she finished getting everything ready, she would tell him everything. Listening to her saying this, Yang Kai no longer forced the issue and waited quietly. A few days later, Yang Kai was sitting in meditation, cultivating his golden blood threads and using his Saint Qi in conjunction with the artifact refining furnace and scarlet firebird in front of him to refine the dragon bone and dragon bead. Although he knew refining the dragon bone and dragon bead required a long period of time, if Yang Kai had a spare moment, he would actively urge the power of the artifact refining furnace to speed up the process. He was very much looking forward to what the dragon bone and dragon bead would look like when the refining was finished. As he was urging his Saint Qi, however, Yang Kai heard a knock at his door. Opening his eyes, Yang Kai slowly retracted his Saint Qi before taking a deep breath to calm his strength. A moment later, he reached out and took the artifact refining furnace back into his body before standing up and walking over to open the stone room's door. Dai Yuan stood outside the room, and for some reason seemed to be fidgeting somewhat nervously. When she felt a residual heat inside the room, she gave Yang Kai a surprised look, instinctively thinking that he was performing alchemy, but there was no pill or medicinal fragrance in the air, making her somewhat confused. Setting this puzzle aside, Dai Yuan asked softly, "Can I come in?" Yang Kai nodded and stepped aside. After Dai Yuan walked in, he closed the door, then sat down at the stone table across from Dai Yuan and asked, "Are your preparations complete?" And Dai Yuan bit her lower lip lightly and nodded. "Then we should start." Yang Kai smiled slightly. "But before that, isn't it about time Sister Dai Yuan tells me what exactly she wants me to help her with? I've come here this time to tell you that." Dai Yuan glanced at him, her eyes exuding a clear and bright light but her cheeks blushing slightly. This surprised Yang Kai somewhat, making him wonder just what kind of difficulties Dai Yuan wanted to discuss that would cause her to behave this way. Dai Yuan sat on the edge of her seat, fidgeting nervously as her small hands clenched unconsciously. Only after a long silence did she get her teeth and say, "Actually, I asked junior brother Yang to come here to help perform a detoxification on me." "Detoxify?" Yang Kai raised his eyebrows. A look of surprise appeared on his face. "Is Sister Dai Yuan poisoned?" I really could not tell. What kind of poison has Sister Dai Yuan been exposed to? Please tell me. Perhaps I will know how to refine the appropriate detoxifying pill. There is no pill to detoxify the poison I am suffering from. Dai Yuan, hearing this, shook her head bitterly. Oh! Yang Kai immediately became interested. When Dai Yuan asked him back in Dragon Cave Mountain, she did say that her request was related to alchemy, and detoxification certainly fell into such a category. However, Dai Yuan had now said that there was no appropriate detoxifying pill for her condition, indicating that whatever poison she afflicted with was quite extraordinary. Naturally, this would raise Yang Kai's curiosity. Perhaps because he was an alchemist, Yang Kai was always interested in learning more about herbs and pills. What I am suffering from is thousand illusion-colored glass toxin, Dai Yuan admitted with a completely solemn and serious look. Thousand illusion-colored glass toxin. Yang Kai was stunned. Isn't thousand illusion-colored glass your noble sect's greatest treasure? I heard that is a profound artifact refining material, but I've never heard about it being toxic. How did you become poisoned by such a thing? Yang Kai was now very curious because what Dai Yuan had just told him was too incredible. Although he did not know much about thousand illusion-colored glass, he was certain that this artifact refining material itself wasn't toxic. Thousand illusion-colored glass is indeed not toxic. Dai Yuan smiled bitterly, brushing her hair behind her ear before continuing in a low voice. But what if someone were to ingest it? Yang Kai's face changed slightly as he stared straight at Dai Yuan, his eyes narrowing. Junior brother Yang does not need to suspect. I have indeed swallowed unprocessed thousand illusion-colored glass for some time now. Ever since I reached the Saint Realm, I have been taking small amounts of it. Dai Yuan smiled mirthlessly. How could that be? Yang Kai gawked. This woman had been ingesting an artifact refining material for many years. How was that different from courting death? Why would anyone do such a thing? And over such a long period of time at that? Naturally, there is a reason for this. Dai Yuan seems to have anticipated Yang Kai would react like this, so she didn't show any surprise and simply continued to explain. Because my secret art is the thousand illusion-colored glass art. This cultivation technique was created by the ancestral founder of my colored glass sect explicitly because of the existence of Colored Glass Mountain. In almost every generation of Colored Glass sect's disciple, there will be someone who cultivates this secret art, and for the current generation, that disciple is me. In order to cultivate this secret art, one needs to regularly ingest thousand illusion-colored glass. Heh! Such a strange secret art. It doesn't seem like a good thing. Yang Kai smiled with a facade. But for the sect, it is indispensable. Thousand Illusion Peak has always been used as the place where those who cultivate this secret art live, hence its name. The last person who lived here also cultivated this secret art? Yang Kai was surprised. Exactly. I grew up beside her since childhood, and this secret art was also taught to me by her. She should be regarded as my true master. And her ending? Yang Kai sneered. I assume it wasn't good, right? Seemingly because of Yang Kai's question, Dai Yuan recalled something, and her expression immediately dimmed. Realizing he had been insensitive, Yang Kai wanted to apologize, but just as he was thinking about how he should comfort her, Dai Yuan smiled and said, that was her fate. Since she chose this path for herself, she should not have any complaints about it. However, before achieving at least the minor accomplishment stage of this secret art, no one can unleash its full power, and over time they will build up toxicity in their body. Eventually, it will reach a point where it can no longer be expelled and advancing further will become precarious. This is knowledge I have acquired from my predecessor and my own life experience. Now, if I want to break through to the origin returning realm, I first need Junior Brother Yang's help to resolve the colored glass toxin accumulated in my body over the years. Otherwise, I will die. Yang Kai nodded lightly, somewhat understanding now why she had run millions of kilometers to Dragon Cave Mountain to ask for his help. However, Dai Yuan had said that before achieving minor accomplishment in this secret art, no one could display its full might. Something that made Yang Kai realize that the last time he saw Dai Yuan take action, she was not actually using her full strength. As a number of thoughts flashed across his mind, Yang Kai suddenly seemed to realize something and turned a surprised gaze towards Dai Yuan. Is your cultivation using this thousand illusion-colored glass art related to the collection of thousand illusion-colored glass? Colored glass sect requiring someone from every generation cultivate such a dangerous secret art must be for an exceptionally important reason. Otherwise, it would be too much of a waste. As for what was most important for colored glass sect, Yang Kai could only think of collecting the thousand illusion-colored glass. Hearing Yang Kai's question, Dai Yuan's complexion changed, and she quickly waved her hands. Junior brother Yang. Such things cannot be discussed. Ah, I'm right. Yang Kai's expression became strange. Dai Yuan smiled bitterly but didn't try to deny it again, nodding dispiritedly as she said, I cultivate thousand illusion-colored glass art precisely because it is a requirement to harvest thousand illusion-colored glass. I won't lie to junior brother Yang, since the last senior who lived here passed away, no one from colored glass sect has been capable of harvesting thousand illusion-colored glass, and only when I reach the origin returning realm will I be able to. This is one of the sect's most closely guarded secrets. What we are discussing here absolutely cannot be said to another soul. Otherwise the consequences will be dire. I understand. Yang Kai nodded hurriedly. His unintentional words had touched upon a great sect's core secrets, causing a little cold sweat to drip down his back. But, since Dai Yuan was so important to colored glass sect, why was she essentially ostracized? Shouldn't she be given the best cultivation resources, cultivation environment, and guidance from the sect's elders? It seems that there was more to this that he did not know. Yang Kai secretly guessed. The last senior who lived here was a heaven-defying genius. She collected and studied all the experiences and insights the many seniors who cultivated the thousand illusion-colored glass art before her and finally developed a safe way to expel the colored glass toxin. Once successful, one will not need to fear colored glass toxin anymore. Reaping the benefits of her efforts, I am extremely grateful to her. Unfortunately, by the time she developed this method, the poison had already permeated her body completely and she could no longer resolve it. And this solution, it requires someone like me? Yang Kai asked. It must be performed by an origin-grade alchemist, and this alchemist must also possess exquisite skills with the control and fusion of various medicinal efficacies. One of the reasons I looked for junior brother Yang was because the pills you refined were all incredibly high-quality products, with a number of them nearly forming pill veins. The requirement for skill is absolutely not a problem for you. Although he had been praised as so by Dai Yuan, Yang Kai still felt a bit puzzled. Although his control of medicinal efficacies was indeed quite good, the 5 origin-grade alchemists from Medicine Pill Sect could not possibly be bad. After all, they had been practicing this craft for hundreds of years at least. So, for Dai Yuan to come seek his help instead of that of Medicine Pill Sect, there must be some other reasons. He did not rush to ask though because he knew that Dai Yuan would definitely explain to him. Seeing Yang Kai's intently listening appearance, Dai Yuan smiled and continued, If it were simply about finding a qualified alchemist, it wouldn't be too difficult. The true problem was with gathering the materials needed for this detoxifying method. Oh? What kind of materials are required? Yang Kai asked. There are many, but the previous senior who lived here spent many years on this and managed to gather 90% of what was required, including the most difficult to find, the Een Pond. My senior spent a lot of energy to move this Een Pond back to Thousand Illusion Peak from the place she discovered it. This was the reason I needed junior brother Yang to come here with me, because this Een Pond cannot be moved again, otherwise, I wouldn't have troubled you so. Yang Kai nodded lightly, finally understanding why Dai Yuan had insisted he come with her to colored glass sect. Een Ponds were an extremely rare treasure. They only formed in places where there was a high density of Een Chi gathers, which almost always meant that they formed in dark, gloomy locations. Even if a Een Pond formed, it was useless for most cultivators, but for those who cultivated cold, evil secret arts, Een Ponds were a cultivation treasure, because the pure Een Chi contained within it could allow such a cultivator to rapidly increase their strength. Yang Kai had heard of Een Ponds before but had never seen one with his own eyes. Because Thousand Illusion-colored glass cannot be suppressed by any of the 5 main elements, if one wants to expel colored glass toxin from their body, they need to use a medium like a Een Pond. By mixing the medicinal efficacies of a number of precious spirit herbs with the water of a Yin pond, then pouring that medicinal liquid into my body, I will theoretically be able to expel all the colored glass toxin, Dai Yuan explained softly. Yang Kai nodded while listening. With his alchemy skills and knowledge, although he did not understand the exact process, he felt that this method should be feasible. After pondering for a moment, he asked, since that senior had found the necessary materials and even managed to move a Yin pond back to Thousand Illusion Peak, why did she not try to detoxify herself in the end? Because she still lacks one vital component. Dai Yuan smiled bitterly. She was unable to obtain a blood-invigorating mushroom. A blood-invigorating mushroom? Yang Kai was shocked. The blood-invigorating mushroom, which is used to refine the blood mushroom pill, which is said to be able to bring one back to life from the brink of death. Shock filled Yang Kai's face, as if he had heard something incredible. Yes, the blood-invigorating mushroom, which is used to refine the blood mushroom pill. Dai Yuan gently nodded, extending her hand and summoning a delicate wooden box onto her palm. Opening the wooden box, a baby fist-sized spirit mushroom appeared before Yang Kai's eyes. This mushroom was quite misshapen and had a multitude of dark red veins on its surface, like there was fresh blood flowing through them. It exuded a pungent scent which bristled one's nose. Yang Kai took it solemnly and gently stroked it with his hand, probing it carefully for a while before nodding. It is indeed a blood-invigorating mushroom, and its medicinal age is at least 3,000 years. Moreover, it seems to have been picked recently. Is it from the flowing flame sand field? Sure enough, junior brother Yang was able to see all its details. Dai Yuan smiled slightly. I must give my thanks to junior brother Yang for this too. This blood-invigorating mushroom was something I obtained in the flowing flame sand field's 4th layer. Yang Kai's expression changed as he thought that Dai Yuan's luck was quite good. Precious treasures and spirit herbs were incredibly sparse in the 4th layer. Yang Kai had traveled across it twice, yet the only things of note he managed to harvest were a few strings of purple fine jade fruit. On the other hand, Dai Yuan had found this blood-invigorating mushroom, and it just so happened to be something she desperately needed. It seemed that after he left, Dai Yuan had spent a lot of effort to find this blood-invigorating mushroom. Perhaps searching for this blood-invigorating mushroom was the main reason she wanted to travel with him to the 4th layer. After all, with it, she could finally achieve her greatest wish. What are you going to do with this blood-invigorating mushroom? Yang Kai closed the box and returned it to her as he asked. Dai Yuan silently stroked the wooden box in her hand a few times before sighing. I won't lie to junior brother Yang. Although this detoxifying method was created by the last senior who lived here, even she was not certain it would succeed because the 1,000 illusion-colored glass toxin has already penetrated my entire body. Expelling all of it would damage my foundation, and dying in the process is not impossible. This blood-invigorating mushroom is meant to guarantee that I can at least survive. Yang Kai frowned. If so, wouldn't it be better to refine it into the blood mushroom pill? The blood mushroom pill? Dai Yuan laughed bitterly. Since junior brother Yang is an alchemist, you should be clear that the blood mushroom pill is an origin-grade high-rank pill. Can the alchemists on Shadowed Star even refine such a thing? If we were in the outside world, junior brother Yang's proposal might be reasonable, unfortunately. Or is junior brother Yang an origin-grade high-rank alchemist? No! Yang Kai shook his head. Right now he was an origin-grade low-rank alchemist, but if he put all his effort into refining a pill and was not concerned about the loss of herbs, there was some small chance could refine an origin-grade mid-rank pill. Refining an origin-grade high-rank pill, however, was impossible, so after pondering the issue for a while, he said, What I mean is, if you aren't in a hurry, you may wish to wait for some time. Acting hastily might not be for the best. You may be able to find a safer method in the future, or find someone capable of refining the blood mushroom pill. He did not dare to say that he would refine it himself. Although Yang Kai felt that within a few years he should be able to become an origin-grade high-rank alchemist, he could not go around making irresponsible guarantees like that. I can't wait. Dai Yuan shook her head bitterly. If I could wait, I wouldn't have sought out junior brother Yang so anxiously, because I cultivate the 1,000 illusion-colored glass art. When the concentration of 1,000 illusion-colored glass realm in my body reaches a certain point, my cultivation must increase to match it. At most, I can only delay for another 6 months. Half a year from now, whether I am willing to or not, I must attempt to break through to the origin returning realm. If I succeed, I will have a chance to survive, but if I fail with my current cultivation, I will not be able to suppress the colored glass toxin in my body and will die. Although taking the blood invigorating mushroom directly will dramatically reduce its effectiveness and is truly a waste of heaven's precious gifts, at present, it is my only option. There's really no other way? Yang Kai frowned. None. Dai Yuan smiled gently. Many thanks for your concern, junior brother Yang. But since I have decided to do this, I have already prepared myself. No matter whether this detoxification will succeed or not, I must try. All the seniors who cultivated the 1,000 illusion-colored glass art before me did not even have such a chance, so I cannot complain. Yang Kai sighed softly and Cease tried to dissuade her, instead just nodding. Since you have already decided, then so be it. Just tell me what you need my help with. I will definitely go all out. When Dai Yuan heard this, she was filled with joy and gratitude. Then I will offer my thanks in advance to junior brother Yang. I'll inform you now about the detoxifying process. Please listen carefully. After we begin, I won't have the spare energy to respond to any questions you might have. And then, Dai Yuan began describing the detoxification method to Yang Kai. Of course, this method and its details were formulated by Dai Yuan Sr. from the Colored Glass sect, and they improved upon until she died. As Yang Kai listened, he could not help feeling a sense of admiration towards this Colored Glass sect senior, as this method was quite ingenious. However, as she was explaining the various steps involved in this detoxifying method, Dai Yuan's face was constantly blushing bright red and her eyes would often shift uncomfortably, her voice going from high to low, highlighting her restlessness. Even though she knew that this was not the time to be feeling shy, she couldn't stop herself, and the innocent yet flustered look that filled her eyes added a unique charm to them. Yang Kai finally understood why Dai Yuan had been reluctant to tell him the details of her request before now. It turned out that this detoxifying method required quite a bit of intimate physical contact. Dai Yuan blushing constantly was understandable considering all this. Any woman would have such an expression when facing a man and telling him how to press and inject various medicinal liquids into her body. After all, if they went through with this, it was inevitable that some awkward moments would occur. Although Yang Kai had not met Colored Glass Sect's Grandmaster Xiao, he was fairly certain that the other party was an old man. Otherwise, Dai Yuan wouldn't have said that asking him was inconvenient. Among the 5 Grandmasters of Medicine Pill Sect, 4 of them were also old men. Only one was an old woman. Compared to having to ask these old men, Dai Yuan would rather choose Yang Kai. Fortunately, Yang Kai was an extraordinary talent that could reluctantly be considered a brave and heroic-looking young man. So Dai Yuan's feelings of rejection were somewhat weaker. Of course, if it were possible, she would have preferred to ask the female Grandmaster from Medicine Pill Sect. After all, between 2 females, things would obviously be less troublesome. However, she could not afford to pay such a big price. Yang Kai's musings on the subject almost completely matched with Dai Yuan's worries. Her becoming an alchemist in the first place was probably because she wanted to carry out this detoxifying herself. Unfortunately, she did not have time to raise her alchemy level high enough. She was currently just a Saint King grade alchemist, and that would not be of any use in this situation. While Dai Yuan's face showed much embarrassment as she explained, Yang Kai's face remained indifferent. He did not show any superfluous emotion and simply listened attentively, refusing to miss the slightest detail. Seeing Yang Kai's performance, Dai Yuan also gradually relaxed and began seeing him as a professional. Currently, her relationship with Yang Kai was somewhat similar to that between a doctor and patient. With such thinking, Dai Yuan's expression gradually became tranquil. Over the next day or so, Yang Kai actively asked questions whenever they came to key points in the process. Dai Yuan naturally understood this and would answer him in detail. One night later, Dai Yuan finished her explanation and Yang Kai had completely committed the detoxification method to memory and understood what needed to be done. Has junior brother Yang remembered everything? Dai Yuan looked at him and asked. Although she hadn't rested for an entire night, she didn't show any signs of sleepiness. instead seeming even more energetic than when they had started, probably because she felt some excitement about approaching what would be the most important moment in her entire life so far. "I've remembered it all." Xianxia nodded lightly before casting a thoughtful glance at Dai Yuan, pausing for a moment before saying, "Your mood is a bit unstable right now. You should rest and adjust yourself for a bit. How about we begin 2 days from now?" Although Dai Yuan couldn't wait to start right away, since Xianxia had said so, she was not in a position to object. Nodding her head, she mentioned a few small details with Xianxia before getting up and returning to her room. After Dai Yuan left, Xianxia sat on the stone bed in the room and rubbed his chin for a while. A short time later, he waved his hand and brought out a number of herbs from his space ring. Immediately after, Xianxia summoned his alchemy furnace and pushed his conflagrated spiritual energy, wrapping up the different spirit herbs and rapidly condensing the medicinal liquid inside them. 2 days passed by rapidly, and when Xianxia opened his eyes from his meditation and swept his surroundings with his divine sense, he discovered Dai Yuan standing outside. After 2 days of restoration and adjustment, her mood had become tranquil and all traces of joy and sadness had disappeared from her face. There was no urgency in her aura as she stood outside, waiting patiently for Xianxia to come out. Xianxia smiled lightly when he saw that Dai Yuan had adjusted herself appropriately and quickly got up, walked over, and opened the door. Dai Yuan noticed this movement and raised her eyes to meet Xianxia's, smiling lightly as they did. "Let's begin." Xianxia gestured. Dai Yuan nodded and led the way. Passing through the massive stone chamber with the natural spirit array, Dai Yuan led Xianxia to separate tunnel. This tunnel gently spiraled down into the depths of the mountain. Stairs were cut into the ground though, so it wasn't difficult to descend. On both sides of this tunnel were numerous luminous stones that gave off a soft radiance. As Dai Yuan descended these stairs, Xianxia said nothing, but he did release his divine sense to investigate down below. After descending to a certain depth, Xianxia suddenly felt a cold chill in the air. This kind of cold wasn't solely the result of low temperatures, but rather a spiritual chill that caused one's skin to crawl. This phenomenon was a result of highly concentrated yin qi. It seemed that the yin pan Dai Yuan mentioned was at the bottom of this tunnel. Xianxia thought to himself. Naturally, this kind of coldness couldn't cause any trouble to Xianxia. Even without pushing his saint qi, he could easily resist it with his flesh body alone. The same was also true of Dai Yuan. Although her physique wasn't as powerful as Xianxia's, her third-order Saint King cultivation wasn't for show. On top of that, the yin pond had been here for many years, so presumably Dai Yuan had visited it countless times in preparation for the detoxification and gradually adapted to it. The further down the pair went, the stronger the feeling of coldness became. After half an incense stick worth of time, Dai Yuan finally had to circulate her saint qi to protect her body, releasing a faint light barrier that surrounded her figure. Sometime later, bright light appeared before Xianxia and Dai Yuan, and the pair arrived at a large stone room. This stone room was completely empty, but if one looked around, they would notice that a thick, cold aura permeated the air as eerie white wisps floated about randomly. The stone walls of this chamber were covered in white frost, and the temperature here could only be described as frigid. In the middle of the stone chamber, there is a small pool less than 10 meters in diameter, out of which plumes of visible yin qi wisps were escaping. Xianxia's face changed slightly. "Sister Dai Yuan, is this yin pond a 1,000-year yin pond or a 10,000-year yin pond?" Dai Yuan seemed to know what Xianxia wanted to ask and replied with a smile. "According to my senior, this yin pond is somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 years old." Xianxia frowned. "The innate chill in a yin pond this old is not something you can withstand. Are you sure you want to continue?" Yin ponds were categorized by their age. Xianxia hadn't heard Dai Yuan describe this yin pond in detail, but assuming it wouldn't be too dangerous for her to immerse herself in it, he hadn't asked anything. However, such an old yin pond would likely turn Dai Yuan into a frozen sculpture the moment she entered it. Dai Yuan smiled slightly. "Please don't worry, junior brother Yang. I have done plenty of preparations and merged the essence of many fire attribute and yang attribute herbs into this yin pond's water to temper its cold power. On top of that, I am an alchemist myself and have cultivated a set of fire attribute secret arts. So as long I am careful, there shouldn't be any problems, not to mention, if I don't continue now, I can only sit waiting for death. If a junior brother Yang in my situation, what choice would you make? Yang Kai fell silent, knowing that Dai Yuan had been forced into this situation and had no other choice, so he no longer tried to dissuade her. Junior brother Yang may rest assured. I have left a letter in the room where I normally meditate. If something unexpected happens this time and I fall, you can take the letter to my honored master. The letter explains everything we have discussed and are about to attempt. After seeing it, she will not embarrass you. My honored master is Great Elder Gong Ao Fu. If you go to Myriad Crystal Peak, you will be able to find her. This conversation, which sounded like a last will, made Yang Kai feel a little bit uncomfortable, but he still nodded and said, "Understood." Dai Yuan smiled and nodded before motioning. "Please follow me." A moment later, the two arrived beside the Yin pond. Yang Kai looked inside and discovered that the water in this pool wasn't very deep, only about a meter or so in total, but what was noticeable was that it didn't have the slightest impurity in it and was completely still, allowing one to peer through it as if it didn't even exist. It seemed like pure, ordinary water, but if someone who cultivated a Yin attribute secret art were to see this stagnant pool, they would undoubtedly be ecstatic and try to obtain it at any cost. This Yin pond's effects on such a cultivator would simply be too great, no less than some top-class precious treasures or rare elixirs. Looking closer, Yang Kai noticed traces of a spirit array arranged around this Yin pond. It was probably a spirit array left by the senior who moved this Yin pond here to bind and stabilize it. Dai Yuan pointed to a place nearby and said, "Please sit here, junior brother Yang. This will be the optimum location for us to cooperate." "All right." Yang Kai nodded, immediately moved to the indicated position, and sat down cross-legged. "Is there anything left to prepare?" Dai Yuan asked, but seemed to be talking to herself as she turned to stare at the Yin pond with a somewhat complex look. After a moment, she smiled again and said, "Junior brother Yang, no matter what happens next, Dai Yuan would like to sincerely thank you. You are the only one who has been willing to help me these past 2 decades and the only friend I have made during that time." Saying so, with a serious look upon her face, she cupped her fists and bowed elegantly to Yang Kai. 20 years. Yang Kai brow twitched slightly. It seems that Dai Yuan's situation in Colored Glass Sect was a bit different from what Wu Yi's previously managed to inquire about. The outward changes may have only happened 10 years ago, but they clearly started more than 10 years before that. Wei Guchang and Dong Shener must have become friends with her before that point, so they couldn't be counted. Yang Kai waved his hand lightly. "Sister Dai Yuan is too polite. This matter is only a slight effort for me. Take this bottle of medicinal liquid." Saying so, Yang Kai handed her a jade bottle. "This is..." Dai Yuan took the jade bottle and looked at Yang Kai curiously. "This is a medicinal liquid I concocted myself. Although I can't refine the blood mushroom pill, if you take this bottle of medicinal liquid together with the blood-invigorating mushroom, it can stimulate its efficacies an additional 10 or 20%. It should have some use for you. At my current alchemy level, this is the best I can do," Yang Kai said with some slight regret. The blood-invigorating mushroom was extremely rare, and the blood mushroom pill was very difficult to refine. The value of a blood mushroom pill was definitely not under that of an ordinary Origin King grade pill, possibly even more so than some, because a blood mushroom pill could bring a cultivator back from the brink of death. This kind of life-saving pill was the most valuable treasure for cultivators who constantly risked their lives. It was truly a pity he was unable to refine such a pill at his current level, and could only use this kind of shoddy method to somewhat stimulate the medicinal effects of the blood-invigorating mushroom. Over the previous 2 days, Yang Kai had spent much of his time preparing this medicinal liquid. When Dai Yuan heard his explanation, she wore a look of surprise and unconsciously tightened her grip on the jade bottle. Without even checking its content, she joyfully thanked Yang Kai. "Many thanks for junior brother Yang's efforts. Dai Yuan will certainly live up to your expectations." At this moment, she felt that asking Yang Kai for his help was the best decision she could have made, because even if she went to Grandmaster Shao of her sect or invited one of the medicine pill sect elders, they would definitely not have taken the initiative to concoct this bottle of medicinal liquid to help her. With this bottle of medicinal liquid, Her chance of success had instantly increased by at least 10%. How could Dai Yuan not be happy? I'll be troubling junior brother Yang. Dai Yuan put away the bottle of medical liquid and said solemnly to Yang Kai, and before waiting for his response, she spun around and dropped her robes, leaving her in only her undergarments. Seemingly having prepared for this moment as well, her undergarments were all black, and although they outlined her exquisite figure, they were as unrevealing and plain as possible. That said, a crimson glow still adorned her face. Not willing to remain in such an embarrassing state for a moment longer than necessary, Dai Yuan's figure flickered as she jumped directly into the Yin pond. Without the slightest splash of water, the moment Dai Yuan entered the Yin pond, she let out a groan as a look of pain flashed across her face. The Yin pond water also seemed to be stimulated by the invasion of a foreign body and immediately began to roil up, creating a white mist that seemed to come to life and spread towards Dai Yuan. With a crisp crackling sound, a thin layer of ice quickly began forming on Dai Yuan's tender body. However, Dai Yuan quickly circulated her secret art and began releasing a blazing heat from her skin, dispersing this layer of ice. The white fog, however, did not retreat and instead began spread more and more fiercely towards her. Dai Yuan finally could not bear it any longer and let out a pitiful cry as a multicolored light erupted from her body. This light was incredibly strange. Rather than saying it was a single light halo, it appeared more like tens of thousands of individual rays all being released simultaneously. Yang Kai's head suddenly ached and he felt as if his soul had been shaken. His knowledge sea also trembled slightly and a kind of invisible pressure descended upon him, making his thoughts become slightly sluggish. Colored glass divine light. Yang Kai was shocked by this but quickly steadied himself and focused his attention on Dai Yuan's body. Although he had long heard Yang Yen say that the colored glass divine light from Thousand Illusion Colored Glass Mountain had the effect of suppressing souls, he had never expected that it would actually be so mysterious. This suppression was virtually impossible to guard against. According to Dai Yuan, Thousand Illusion Colored Glass could not be suppressed by any of the 5 elements, and now Yang Kai was experiencing this firsthand. The light emanating from Dai Yuan's body directly penetrated his knowledge sea defenses, and was even able to somewhat suppress his conflagrated spiritual energy. Fortunately, Dai Yuan had not deliberately been targeting Yang Kai, and Yang Kai himself was not an ordinary cultivator. So, although he was a little shocked initially, he was immediately able to resist the influence of this colored glass divine light and subsequently release his conflagrated divine sense to envelop Dai Yuan. Currently, Dai Yuan was experiencing severe pain, causing her already disfigured face to warp into an even more unsightly appearance. However, what Yang Kai found surprising was that her entire body was covered in pockmarks and pustules, completely opposite to an ordinary beautiful woman's smooth and delicate skin. Even after disrobing, Dai Yuan's black undergarments had concealed much of her bare skin from Yang Kai's sight, but after she entered the Yin pond, these thin coverings became soaked and clung tightly to her figure. At the same time, Yang Kai was covering her with his powerful divine sense, so he immediately discovered this issue. It seemed that besides her 2 exposed hands, which seemed to be carved from the finest jade, the rest of Dai Yuan's body was just like her face, nothing short of unsightly. The side effects of this Thousand Illusion Colored Glass art were simply too great. Yang Kai immediately understood that it was Dai Yuan's special secret art that had caused her to become like this. Junior brother Yang. Just as Yang Kai was slightly distracted, Dai Yuan grit her teeth and shouted tremblingly. Yang Kai came back to his senses when he heard her voice and nodded. "Let's begin!" In the next instant, Dai Yuan completely opened an acupuncture point on her chest and madly began drawing the Yin pond's water into her body. When the frigid cold water poured inside her chest, Dai Yuan shuddered uncontrollably, but she still clenched her teeth tightly as her lips went purple and gazed fixedly towards Yang Kai with her beautiful eyes. Yang Kai did not say a word, poured his conflagrated divine sense into Dai Yuan's open acupuncture point, and immediately began forming several sets of alchemy spirit arrays inside her body. Conflagrated divine sense. Dai Yuan's eyes bulged in surprise. She had not expected Yang Kai to possess a conflagrated knowledge sea. According to her original plan, Yang Kai would need to press his hands onto her chest to carefully infuse his Saint Qi into her body, treating it like an alchemy furnace and using the various medicinal efficacies contained in the Inpan's water to refine then expel the colored glass toxin. When discussing the details of this method before, Yang Kai had not disclosed that he possessed a conflagrated knowledge C, but at this moment, Dai Yuan wasn't the slightest bit dissatisfied, because since this was the case, Yang Kai wouldn't need to have any intimate contact with her body. This shocked her and also put her a bit more at ease. After all, she was an unmarried, innocent young woman. Being touched all over by a young man she wasn't in love with was naturally not something she wished for. Just as such thoughts were flashing across Dai Yuan's mind, centered on her chest's open acupuncture point, a 6-centimeter wide circle of her skin was flooded with a swirl of the Inpan's water. Under the control of Yang Kai conflagrated knowledge C, the medicinal efficacies contained in this water were incorporated into Dai Yuan's flesh, causing an uncomfortable ache to spread from her chest. Dai Yuan's breathing instantly became labored, as it felt like something had suddenly blocked the flow of her strength in that spot. Under the effects of the spirit arrays Yang Kai had portrayed, however, the various conflicting medicinal efficacies in the Inpan's water blended, then forced a thread of strange glowing material out of Dai Yuan's chest. This glowing thread-like object did not dissipate in the Inpan though, and instead began swirling about without the slightest hindrance. Soon, another similar thread was forced out, and as time passed, more and more filaments were driven from Dai Yuan's body, causing the entire Inpan to take on a strange luminescence. After half an hour, Dai Yuan felt the feeling of suffocation in her chest suddenly disappear and her blocked Saint Qi began circulating again. The frigid chill which had originally been difficult for her to resist also no longer caused her any discomfort. Dai Yuan was overjoyed and could not care about anything else, quickly releasing her divine sense to examine her chest. There was no more colored glass toxin in the parts of her physique, which was centered on the previously open acupuncture point, and her skin had finally been restored to its normal state, taking on a rosy, jade-white complexion with none of the previous ugly, pitted areas remaining. Because she was still soaking in the Inpan though, there was a bluish tint to her flesh from the cold, but that could not cover the stark contrast this portion of her body had with the rest of her figure. Dai Yuan's eyes nearly teared up, and under the trembling of her emotions, she almost allowed the Inpan's water to pour into her body unchecked. Stabilize your mind and don't get distracted. You can inspect yourself all you want after everything is finished. Yang Kai's firm shout entered Dai Yuan's ears in the next instant, waking her from her surprise. Glancing over and seeing Yang Kai sitting cross-legged nearby, still pushing his conflagrated spiritual energy into her body to blend the medicinal efficacies for the procedure. His expression calm and steady, not showing the slightest trace of embarrassment, Dai Yuan calmed down, nodded, and opened another of her acupuncture points to draw in the Inpan's water. Yang Kai immediately coordinated with her, not daring to hesitate, under the intense scrutiny of his divine sense. Although Yang Kai was able to see every part of Dai Yuan's body, equivalent to her standing in front of him completely naked, at this moment he had not the slightest stray thought, instead focusing all of his attention on meticulously urging the efficacies of the Inpan. Dai Yuan had mixed a large number of herbs into this Inpan over the years, so it was not difficult to resolve the colored glass toxin in her body. The tricky part was fusing these medicinal efficacies into Dai Yuan's physique at a rate she was able to bear. Fusing the medicinal efficacies into Dai Yuan's body was not too troublesome, as she was an alchemist as well. So, when Yang Kai used his conflagrated divine sense, she only needed to cooperate with him. However, Yang Kai could do nothing about the speed at which they proceeded, as that was completely dependent on Dai Yuan's own willpower. The colored glass toxin had penetrated deep into her body, so every time a part of it was expelled, not only were the toxins removed, but part of her vital energy was as well. Doing this once or twice was not an issue, but as it was done more and more, Dai Yuan's life would increasingly be at risk. The reality of the situation was unfortunately as brutal as they had expected. Every time the toxin was forced out of a section of Dai Yuan's body, it would take at least a stick of incense worth of time, so after half a day, less than 1/5 of her body had been purified, but Dai Yuan's aura had already begun to fluctuate and her complexion had grown as pale as paper. Fortunately, Dai Yuan had fully prepared for this. Taking out some pills from her space ring, she tossed them into her mouth and was able to restore some color to her face. Seeing this, Yang Kai also slightly slowed down the movement of his hands, giving her enough time to refine these pills. However, Yang Kai and Dai Yuan did not dare to waste too much time. After all, Dai Yuan experienced enormous consumption for every moment she remained immersed in the Yin pond. As such, after just a short break, the two began the detoxifying process again. As time passed by, more and more of the colored glass toxin in Dai Yuan's body was expelled. But Yang Kai's expression only became graver. He could not see whether Dai Yuan could overcome this challenge, because even now, she was beginning to overdraw her vitality and was barely maintaining her bodily functions and cooperating with Yang Kai on the detoxification. This was not a sustainable situation, and once she could no longer endure, Dai Yuan would definitely die. Even if she managed to insist, Dai Yuan would end up a convalescent for a long time afterwards. However, there was no turning back now. Whether it was Yang Kai or Dai Yuan, they had no choice but to finish the detoxification one way or the other. Seemingly feeling the concern in Yang Kai's gaze, Dai Yuan, who was even now struggling to support herself, suddenly opened her eyes and forced out a smile that was uglier than a grimace and said, "I can handle it, so junior brother Yang does not need to have any scruples. Please act fully." Yang Kai look became solemn, and after feeling her determination, he nodded silently and pushed his conflagrated divine sense even more forcefully, forming a new set of spirit arrays inside Dai Yuan's unguarded body, drawing in the Yin pond's water, and cleansing her physique with the medicinal efficacies. Dai Yuan released pitiful screams again and again, her voice extremely bleak, as if she was suffering inhuman torture. Another day passed by, and most of Dai Yuan's body had been restored to its original state. Under the investigation of his divine sense, Yang Kai confirmed that she had the capital ordinary women could only dream of. Her skin was jade white and had a mesmerizing tenderness to it, while her figure was nothing short of astonishing with rich curves in all the right places. Even her pockmarked face had transformed into an alluring vision. Besides her complexion being slightly blue, there was no trace of her former, unbearable appearance, and all that remained was a stunning beauty that could ignite a fire in any man's heart. Combined with her severely weakened and fragile state, Dai Yuan currently appeared incredibly charming. Yang Kai had long expected this though, so he was not surprised and continued to focus on the task at hand. At a certain moment, Yang Kai took back his conflagrated divine sense and shouted vigorously, "Quickly swallow the blood-invigorating mushroom." Dai Yuan was barely conscious now, her pair of beautiful eyes dull and glazed over. Currently, she only knew how to unconsciously cooperate with Yang Kai's movements and was relying solely on the obsession in her heart to persist. Nevertheless, after hearing Yang Kai's shout, a touch of clarity returned to Dai Yuan's eyes and she swiftly took out the wooden box containing the blood-invigorating mushroom from her space ring, opened it, and swallowed the contents. Immediately after, she took out the jade bottle Yang Kai had handed her and drank down the medical liquid it contained. When these precious medicines entered her abdomen, Dai Yuan's condition finally began to improve. The paleness on her face was quickly replaced with a strong crimson blush as the blood in her veins began to rapidly circulate. The massive amount of vitality contained in the blood-invigorating mushroom began coursing through her body, rapidly restoring the vital energy she had lost. Yang Kai did not wait for her to completely refine the blood-invigorating mushroom's medicinal efficacies before wrapping her in his conflagrated divine sense again. Success or failure would depend on these final moments. If Dai Yuan's will was strong enough, she should have a 30% chance of making it. If not, she would exhaust her vitality completely and fall. Dai Yuan understood this better than anyone else and immediately began fully cooperating with Yang Kai. In an instant, the entire Yin pond became turbulent as its water madly flooded into Dai Yuan's body, causing her figure to be enveloped in layers of thick white mist, while strange glowing filaments were constantly forced out of her physique. Thousands of meters below Thousand Illusion Peak's summit, beside a 10-meter-wide Yin pond, Yang Kai sat cross-legged, his brow slightly furrowed as he stared at an unremarkable-looking gray bead he was playing with in his hand. Dai Yuan's detoxification had been completed, and by the heaven's grace, she was able to survive and purge all the colored glass toxin from her body. Currently, she was in a comatose state, but before she fell completely unconscious, she had suddenly opened her mouth and spat out this small bead and told Yang Kai it was a colored glass bead, then passed out. Yang Kai brought her out of the Yin pond, used his Saint Chi to dry the frigid water from her body, then draped his robes over her before settling down nearby. If possible, Yang Kai wanted to carry her back to her room to rest, but with Dai Yuan currently only wearing tight-fitting undergarments, picking her up and holding her close was a bit inconvenient. There didn't seem to be anything special about the bead in his hand, and could have been written off as worthless by those who only casually saw it. But as Yang Kai carefully observed this bead, he discovered to his amazement that its interior contained thousands of rays of multicolored light that perfectly matched the colored glass divine light he had seen before. These rays of light were even capable of suppressing his divine sense and penetrating his knowledge defenses to shake his soul. Yang Kai immediately understood that this seemingly ordinary bead was an extraordinary treasure. Although Yang Kai had not personally seen thousand illusion-colored glass before, he could tell that the formation of this bead must have something to do with the thousand illusion-colored glass that Dai Yuan had been ingesting to cultivate her thousand illusion-colored glass art. However, after thoroughly inspecting it, Yang Kai discovered something quite strange. While this bead was somewhat like an alchemy pill, it also had properties resembling an artifact refining material. It seemed to be an existence that was situated somewhere between these two, making it difficult to classify. As he was holding this colored glass bead appreciatively, Yang Kai's expression suddenly changed, and he quickly glanced over towards Dai Yuan, who was still lying nearby. Dai Yuan's long eyelashes had just fluttered slightly, and her delicate jade fingers seemed to have flexed, obvious signs that she was about to wake up. Looking at her completely unrecognizable face, Yang Kai could not help letting out a sigh of admiration. Before purging the colored glass toxin, Dai Yuan's appearance had been quite unsightly, but now she had become an extraordinary beauty, even slightly superior to Yin Su Dai. Yang Kai was not confident that if she had such an appearance before she entered the Yin pond, he would have been able to maintain a completely calm state. Thinking about it carefully, he felt that his heart would have been at least a bit unsteady. After all, what man would be able to remain completely indifferent when facing such an alluring woman when she was nearly naked? A short time later, Dai Yuan opened her eyes and began to stir, quickly discovering that she was currently very weak. Since you're awake, quickly adjust your breathing. Your current state is quite frail, Yang Kai lightly encouraged. Hearing this, Dai Yuan moved her gaze and quickly found Yang Kai sitting close to her, looking at her with a smile. Seeing him, she tried to say something, but did not have the strength to form the words. After discovering that the robes Yang Kai had previously been wearing were missing, and that there was something covering her, Dai Yuan's beautiful eyes flashed a trace of gratitude and security, immediately closing her eyes again and silently circulating a healing art. 2 hours later, Dai Yuan slowly sat up, and after properly dressing herself, she took out many restorative pills she had prepared in advance from her space ring and began swallowing them while continuing to meditate. Another day later, Dai Yuan exhaled deeply and opened her eyes again. This time, her beautiful eyes were full of vitality, and it even seemed that her cultivation had grown. Although her face was still pale, it was no longer moribund. If she continued to meditate, it would only be a matter of time before she completely recovered. Getting up lithely, Dai Yuan walked over to Yang Kai and bowed deeply. Dai Yuan thanks Junior Brother Yang. If I had not had Junior Brother Yang's help this time, I am afraid I would have already fallen. Dai Yuan will never forget Junior Brother Yang's life-saving grace. Yang Kai also stood up and shook his head with a smile and said lightly, "It was thanks to your own efforts that you managed to pass through this ordeal. I did not do anything." Dai Yuan shook her head slowly. "Junior Brother Yang thinks too highly of me. I know that if I had not sought out Junior Brother Yang but instead asked Grandmaster Shao or one of the elders from Medicine Pill Sect, I would definitely not be standing here now. If nothing else, the bottle of medicinal liquid Junior Brother Yang gave me must have been refined from many precious herbs. Yes? Without that bottle of medicinal liquid, I would not have been able to endure the last few hours of the detoxification." Dai Yuan had clearly felt that after taking the blood-invigorating mushroom and the bottle of medicinal liquid, her lost vital energy had been greatly restored, and as time passed, it continued to be supplemented. It was precisely because of this that she was able to persist until the end. Otherwise, she would have fallen halfway through. Taking the blood-invigorating mushroom directly would not have produced such an effect. If it had been the blood mushroom pill Dai Yuan had taken, such a result would not be unexpected, but simply consuming the blood-invigorating mushroom without refining it at all could not achieve this. As such, it was obvious that this long-lasting effect was due to the unknown bottle of medicinal liquid. Although Dai Yuan did not know what the medicinal liquid Yang Kai gave her had cost him, she was clear that it wasn't something ordinary. Yang Kai did not even mention this though, showing the depths of his generosity, but how could Dai Yuan not be concerned about it? Hearing her say this, Yang Kai did not try to deny or confirm anything. What Dai Yuan did not know was that although the bottle of medicinal liquid had indeed cost Yang Kai a lot of precious spirit herbs, the most important ingredient was actually a drop of his golden blood. Yang Kai's golden blood contained an enormous amount of vital energy, which was naturally the best supplement for Dai Yuan's damaged vitality. Regardless of the process, Sister Dai Yuan ultimately succeeded, something worth celebrating. And congratulations! Yang Kai let out a laugh as he changed the subject. A charming smile blossomed on Dai Yuan's face as she turned around and gazed at her peerless appearance reflected in the calm Yin pond water, her beautiful eyes flashing a clear and vibrant light. Yang Kai stood to the side without disturbing her, allowing Dai Yuan to savor the joy of regaining her original beauty. After a while, Dai Yuan suddenly reached out and waved her sleeve, causing her mesmerizing reflection in the Yin pond to ripple and disappear. Immediately, Dai Yuan circulated her Saint Qi, and under Yang Kai's stunned gaze, the beautiful appearance she had just regained reverted back to the ugly pockmarked one she had just rid herself of. Seeing this, Yang Kai could not help frowning slightly. All women wished to be beautiful, and Dai Yuan was no exception. If that were not the case, she wouldn't have lost her calm when the heaven-battling Union disciple had taunted her so back in the flowing flame sand field. Nor would she have revealed such a strong look of nostalgia just now. However, since she had done this, she must have her own reasons. Yang Kai did not ask anything, but feeling a bit curious, he used his divine sense to sweep her face and was amazed to discover that he couldn't see any flaws in this disguise. It was as if Dai Yuan's face had really reverted to its former ugly appearance. This surprised Yang Kai quite a bit. After all, he had seen Dai Yuan's true face just now with his own eyes. Although Yang Kai had not asked anything, Dai Yuan took the initiative to explain. Junior brother Yang may laugh if he likes. I simply think that now is not a good time to reveal this matter, so I can only conceal it for the time being. It won't be too late to inform my honored master about this after I break through to the origin returning realm. Sister Dai Yuan has clearly considered this matter carefully. Yang Kai nodded in agreement before immediately asking, "May I ask Sister Dai Yuan what the use of this bead is?" Saying so, he took out the colored glass bead and held it up. Dai Yuan looked at the colored glass bead and smiled lightly. "Right. I was only able to take out this bead and didn't inform junior brother Yang about its uses. And, in a sense, to me, this bead is somewhat similar to a monster core from a monster beast." A monster core? Yang Kai was stunned. And, because the 1,000 illusion-colored glass art was created based on how monster beasts cultivate. Junior brother Yang should know that some monster beasts have an innate ability to devour various minerals, extract mineral essence, and then store them in their monster core, right? Cultivating the 1,000 illusion-colored glass art imitates this process by taking 1,000 illusion-colored glass into my body and producing this bead. Yang Kai was truly surprised by this revelation, but quickly realizing a certain point, he hastily asked, "If that is the case, now that you've lost this bead, won't it have a negative effect on you?" "There is indeed some negative impact, but it's nothing serious. While it is analogous to a monster core, it is not as vital to me as a core would be to a monster beast. As long as I have enough time and enough 1,000 illusion-colored glass, I can continuously produce such beads." Hearing this, Yang Kai felt relieved while secretly thinking to himself that the master who created this 1,000 illusion-colored glass art was really a heaven-defying genius. a secret art that actually allowed a cultivator to produce a bead similar to a monster beast's core in their own body. It was no wonder when he was investigating it, Xianxia had felt it was like an alchemy pill while also resembling an artifact refining material. Dai Yuan looked at Xianxia with a smile and exhaled an orchid scent as she continued. Although this colored glass bead is important to me, having it or not will not affect me greatly. On the other hand, it will be extremely useful for junior brother Yang. Oh? I hope Sister Dai Yuan can explain clearly. Xianxia looked at her curiously. He had been investigating this colored glass bead for quite some time but had yet to figure out what exactly he was supposed to do with it. He had planned on asking Yang Yan, but now that he heard Dai Yuan say this, it would obviously be easier to get an explanation from her. If junior brother Yang can refine this colored glass bead, perhaps you will be able to comprehend some of its mysteries. After all, it is formed from concentrated thousand illusion colored glass essence. If junior brother Yang can comprehend the mysterious of the colored glass divine light, it will allow you to obtain a powerful technique to use in battle. With junior brother Yang's aptitude, and the assistance of this colored glass bead, I would estimate you have an 80% chance of success. Colored glass divine light. Xianxia expression brightened. Before, when he was helping Dai Yuan with her detoxification, he had suffered a small loss from this colored glass divine light, clearly illustrating the power of this strange multicolored light. Ordinarily, without cultivating the thousand illusion-colored glass art, no other cultivator had any chance of comprehending how to use colored glass divine light, but with the help of this colored glass bead, such a feat might be possible. Xianxia was naturally overjoyed to learn this. If this was really the case, this gift from Dai Yuan could not be underestimated. Junior brother Yang need not worry. This colored glass bead is different from the thousand illusion colored glass I took. It has no toxic side effects. If junior brother Yang carefully refines it, there should be no problems. This is the compensation I promised junior brother Yang before. Dai Yuan has no other things of real value as all my resources have been spent on preparing for this detoxification. I hope junior brother Yang will not refuse. What Dai Yuan did not tell Xianxia was that this one colored glass bead was the result of her diligently cultivating the thousand illusion colored glass art for more than 20 years. Although she had now reached the minor accomplishment stage in this secret art and could condense another colored glass bead, doing so would take several years of effort. Xianxia grinned. I am very satisfied with this reward. Sister Dai Yuan is too considerate. Saying so, he put away the colored glass bead before turning to look at the nearly drained Yin pond and said, Since this matter has been settled, we should head back up. And, after so many days of delay, Sister Yang Yan must have grown anxious. Dai Yuan smiled lightly and led Xianxia back up to the main cave. It seemed that because she had restored her original appearance, every movement Dai Yuan made now contained a kind of innate charm, completely different from her indifferent aura from before. A fact that secretly surprised Xianxia. Not long after, the two returned to the upper cave where they separated and returned to their respective rooms. After taking out the colored glass bead and playing with it for a while, Xianxia's eyes flashed as he had just thought up something, a grin slowly appearing on his face. At that moment, though, the door to his stone room was pushed open and Yang Yan, wrapped in her trademark black robe, walked inside. Is everything done? Yang Yan asked. Good. Then we should leave. Yang Yan seemed a little anxious but did not ask about what Dai Yuan had wanted Xianxia to help her with. What happened? Xianxia frowned. Nothing happened, but I don't think it's a good idea to remain here for too long. Xiao has been gone for 7 or 8 days now, so it's about time for him to come back. Being too greedy may cause unnecessary troubles. Xianxia thought about it for a moment and felt what Yang Yan said made sense. Nodding in agreement. All right, then we'll leave in the morning. Although they were still inside Thousand Illusion Peak, Xianxia could investigate the situation outside with his divine sense. It was the middle of the night right now, so leaving would be inconvenient, so he could only wait for dawn before setting out. After reaching an agreement, Yang Yan also returned to her room to rest. After a peaceful night, Xianxia immediately informed Dai Yuan about his intention to leave. Although Dai Yuan enthusiastically invited Xianxia to stay a few more days, hoping to discuss their shared interest in alchemy, with Xianxia having a guilty conscience at the moment, how could he continue to linger? Seeing that there was no way to persuade him, Dai Yuan reluctantly agreed and personally saw Yang Kai and Yang Yen out of Grand Crystal Mountain Range. On the way, Dai Yuan told Yang Kai that after taking a few months to fully recover, she would enter retreat to break through to the origin returning realm. Once she succeeded, she would visit Dragon Cave Mountain again to thank him in person. Yang Kai naturally agreed. While the two were talking, a thunderous sound suddenly spread across the entire Grand Crystal Mountain Range, and immediately after, a beam of multicolored light shot up into the sky. Even though they were thousands of kilometers away, the group of three were still able to see this beam of light clearly. Colored Glass Mountain. Dai Yuan's expression changed dramatically as she stared towards the beam of multicolored light and exclaimed. The spot where this beam originated from was obviously where Thousand Illusion Colored Glass Mountain was situated. Seeing this situation, it seemed that the Grand Spirit Array arranged around Colored Glass Mountain had become unstable, allowing Colored Glass Mountain's Colored Glass Divine Light to break through. Yang Kai's face also changed slightly as he and Yang Yen exchanged a knowing glance, the two of them having a myriad of thoughts flash across their minds. But soon, Yang Kai restored a calm expression and asked, "Did something happen with your noble sex Colored Glass Mountain?" "And I don't know exactly what's happened, but it seems that the barrier surrounding it was somewhat triggered. Junior brother Yang, I originally wanted to send you all the way, but it appears I will not be able to accompany you any further. Since I cultivate the Thousand Illusion Colored Glass art, I must immediately head out. I will have to say goodbye to you and Sister Yang Yen here. Since such a big event has occurred in your noble sect, Sister Dai Yuan truly should respond promptly. We've already arrived at the edge of Grand Crystal Mountain Range, so as long as Yang Yen and I follow the path, we shouldn't have any problems leaving." Yang Kai gently nodded. "Thank you. One day, I will surely patronize your Dragon Cave Mountain. At that time, I hope we can have a long discussion." Dai Yuan smiled apologetically before her tender body flickered and transformed into a stream of light, returning along the path they had just flown at a very fast speed. After her figure disappeared, Yang Kai pulled Yang Yan's hand and shouted, "Let's go!" The two also summoned their star shuttles and quickly took off. Although they did not know what had happened, Yang Kai was certain it was related to the stone puppet. So how could they foolishly remain any longer? After all, there was an accident when he had retrieved the stone puppet last night. Fortunately, they had decided to leave today, otherwise with such a development happening right now, Yang Kai and Yang Yen would have had a hard time trying to leave Colored Glass Sect. With Dai Yuan acting as a guarantor, he wasn't worried that any harm would come to them inside Colored Glass Sect. However, if any kind of clue had been left behind that could trace back to them, the Colored Glass Sect would definitely not let them go, no matter how Dai Yuan advocated for them. At the same time, beside Thousand Illusion Colored Glass Mountain that Yang Kai had seen from afar before, dozens of Origin returning Realm Masters were on high alert. Among them, there were at least 10 Third-Order Origin Realm Masters, all of them releasing an incredible momentum. Half of these masters were shuttling back and forth around Colored Glass Mountain, constantly pouring streams of pure Saint Qi into a translucent energy barrier. Receiving so much Saint Qi, this great barrier fluctuated visibly and released a series of big and small ripples that gave off a strong suppressive power. These ripples were gradually suppressing the Colored Glass Divine Light that was shooting up into the sky back into the Thousand Illusion Colored Glass Mountain. As for the remaining Origin Realm Masters, they all had their Saint Qi condensed as they stared solemnly at the Thousand Illusion Colored Glass Mountain, preparing to act at a moment's notice. What happened? A booming voice suddenly resounded as an old man with a thin figure, silver hair, and a long beard appeared beside Colored Glass Mountain. Many Origin returning Realm Masters saw this old man and immediately cupped their fists. "Greetings, Sect Master." This old man was the Sect Master of Colored Glass Sect, Gongxing He. Gongxing He just waved his hand, motioning for everyone to dispense with the formalities, as he turned his gaze towards a pair of Third-Order Origin, returning Realm Masters who were rapidly flying over. The man appeared middle-aged and had an imposing stature. Although it was impossible to tell his exact age, the vicissitudes which permeated his eyes clearly indicated he was not young. As for the woman, She had the appearance of a beautiful middle-aged woman with a slender figure that, while a bit older, was still quite charming. The pair arrived in front of Gong Xinghe and respectfully greeted him. "Elder Ma, Elder Du, the two of you have been defending this place for years. What happened just now?" Gong Xinghe looked at them and asked with a solemn expression. The middle-aged man surnamed Ma and the beautiful woman surnamed Du exchanged a quick glance before the man cupped his fists and replied, "Reporting to Sect Master, the situation is like this. Last night, for some unknown reason, Elder Du suddenly felt that the grand barrier below Colored Glass Mountain seemed to show some signs of loosening. I immediately sent the mountain quarrying beast to investigate, but soon after I unexpectedly lost contact with it. Even now, it has still not responded to my attempts to communicate with it or returned on its own. Then, just now, the colored glass divine light suddenly erupted. The two of us believe that a section of the barrier underground has been damaged. Otherwise, this kind of matter could not have occurred." "The barrier has been damaged?" Gong Xinghe frowned, quickly asking. "This has not happened in hundreds of years. Every few years we stabilize the spirit array and barrier, so how could it suddenly have become damaged?" "This?" The man surnamed Ma hesitated for a while, unable to offer an explanation. Seeing him behave like this, Gong Xinghe naturally knew that inquiring further would be pointless, and instead turned to the beautiful woman and asked, "Elder Du, do we only have one mountain quarrying beast available?" The beautiful middle-aged woman smiled bitterly. "We indeed have more than one mountain quarrying beast, but only one is capable of withstanding the intensity of the colored glass divine light close to the colored glass mountain's barrier. The others aren't mature enough yet. These beasts were purchased specially from Myriad Beast Sect for the purpose of guarding Colored Glass Mountain, but Myriad Beast Sect has not given us the complete method to cultivate and control them. So, we have no way of finding out what happened to the barrier below Colored Glass Mountain in its current condition." Gong Xinghe immediately looked displeased. The man surnamed Ma and the beautiful woman surnamed Du hung their heads down without saying a word. "Do we have any idea what could have caused this?" Gong Xinghe asked again. The two elders' expressions became even more awkward. Seeing this situation, another elder nearby said, "Although we don't know if the barrier was damaged as a result of some natural phenomenon, or if it was damaged artificially, the most important thing right now is to suppress the outbreak of the colored glass divine light. If we allow things to continue like this, the entire spirit array might collapse, and we might lose this treasure mountain. While we suppress the outbreak here, though, we must thoroughly investigate all the outsiders who entered Colored Glass Sect recently. If this was not some kind of accident, it may be related to one of these outsiders." "Yes," a number of others immediately agreed. Gong Xinghe pondered for a moment before turning to look at the elder who had spoken just now and nodded. "I leave it to you to investigate the outsiders in the sect right now. Don't allow any of them to leave Colored Glass Sect, but also don't embarrass them. If it really was one of them, they must have been after the 1,000 illusion-colored glass. Good. I want to see just who has the guts to try something so audacious." "Yes." The elder received this order and immediately went to work. Not far away, when In Su Dai overheard all this, she suddenly smiled and quickly chased after this elder, seemingly wanting to report something. At the same time, another graceful young woman wearing a gorgeous dress walked up to Gong Xinghe and said, "Sect Master, please restrain your anger. In fact, there is another method besides the mountain quarrying beast to investigate what has happened with the barrier down below." Seeing this young woman speak, Gong Xinghe squinted slightly before nodding. "Fuer, explain. What other solution do you have?" The young woman smiled and said, "Did Father forget? Among my disciples, there is one who has cultivated the 1,000 illusion-colored glass art." The young woman and Gong Xinghe shared a father-daughter relationship, but both were third-order origin returning realm masters. This situation was not uncommon on Shadowed Star, though, because the third-order origin returning realm was the limit a cultivator could achieve here. As such, within many great sects, multiple generations of the same family, as well as many masters and disciples, could have the same cultivation. From the way Gong Xinghe addressed this young woman and from the words she spoke, it was apparent that she was the one Dai Yuan mentioned to Yang Kai, Gong Ao Fu of Myriad Crystal Peak. 1,000 illusion-colored glass art. Gong Xing, he heard these words and could not help a trace of fear from flashing across his eyes. The other elders present were also the same, all of them seemingly remembering something with complex expressions. You mean the junior who currently lives on Thousand Illusion Peak? Gong Xing, his eyes quickly returned to normal and he asked lightly. Yes. Gong Aofu nodded. Where is she? Gong Xing, he asked. It seems that she's already on her way here, probably because she noticed the situation. Gong Aofu turned her head towards a certain direction where an azure streak of light was quickly approaching. After waiting for a moment, the azure light arrived in front of everyone and a graceful figure revealed itself. However, when everyone saw the face of this figure, many strange expressions appeared. The one who had arrived was naturally Dai Yuan, but obviously having anticipated that many of the sect's elders would already be here, she didn't show any signs of panic and greeted Gong Xing He with a calm expression. Thousand Illusion Peak disciple Dai Yuan greets sect master. Gong Xing He gently nodded but did not say anything. Dai Yuan next saluted Gong Aofu and the other elders who had gathered. Gong Aofu Dai frowned slightly as she used her divine sense to sweep Dai Yuan, suspiciously asking, Yuaner, what have you been up to these past few days? Why does it look like your vitality is slightly damaged? Dai Yuan bowed her head and replied, Disciple had a slight accident while cultivating, but it has not caused any lasting harm. Many thanks for honored master's concern. Although her words were polite, Dai Yuan's expression was completely indifferent, as if she was only making the appropriate replies without any emotion behind them. Seeing this, Gong Xing he knit his brow slightly, but not caring about her attitude, he quickly asked, Your honored master said that you have a way to investigate the situation below Colored Glass Mountain. Is this the case? Investigate below Colored Glass Mountain? Yes. We suspect that the underground barrier has been damaged, but we are unable to tell if it was some kind of natural occurrence or if it was done intentionally, so we need to check it. Is there any problem? The sect raised and nurtured me, so now that I can be of use to it, Dai Yuan will naturally cooperate. Dai Yuan replied faintly. Hearing this, Gong Aofu opened her mouth and seemed to want to say something, but thinking twice, she simply said, Since that is the case, investigate the situation and report back to us. Disciple understands. Dai Yuan did not hesitate, immediately closing her eyes and circulating her secret art. Soon, colored glass divine light identical to the one bursting from Colored Glass Mountain burst from Dai Yuan's body. The only difference was the light from her was less than a millionth in intensity. This halo of colored glass light surrounded Dai Yuan for a moment before suddenly condensing into a ray that shot into the ground below Colored Glass Mountain. Seeing this situation, many elders who had never witnessed the Thousand Illusion colored glass art in action showed looks of interest. Because Thousand Illusion colored glass mountain could not be suppressed by the 5 elements and also had the effect of restraining spiritual energy, even if their cultivation realms were much higher than Dai Yuan's, they were unable to use their divine senses to investigate the situation below Colored Glass Mountain. But now Dai Yuan, who was just a third-order Saint King, was easily able to accomplish this feat, stimulating their curiosity. Naturally, they understood the dangers of cultivating the Thousand Illusion colored glass art, so while they were curious about its effects, none of them had any intent to practice it, most of them soon just waiting for Dai Yuan to finish her investigation. Sometime later, a ray of light shot up from below Colored Glass Mountain and rushed into Dai Yuan's tender body. Seeing this situation, the gathered elders of Colored Glass sect looked to Dai Yuan and waited for her answer. However, Dai Yuan kept her eyes closed tightly, as if she was perceiving something. It was only after quite a while passed that she opened her eyes and bowed. Reporting to Sect Master, Honored Master, the barrier beneath Colored Glass Mountain has indeed been damaged, and nearby where the damage is there seems to be the corpse of a monster beast. It looks as if this monster beast touched the barrier and was killed by it, damaging it in the process. A monster beast? The beautiful woman surnamed Du was shocked and could not help asking, could it be the mountain quarrying beast? It can't be. The man surnamed Ma also looked puzzled. The mountain quarrying beast shouldn't have damaged the barrier. It has already performed many investigations around the mountain and never once had any trouble. Why would it suddenly make such a grave mistake? The beautiful woman surnamed Du looked at Dai Yuan and asked with a faint smile, "Martial niece, could you have been mistaken? The mountain quarrying beast was specially purchased from Myriad Beast Sect to be used here, and should not have broken the barrier. I can't be certain what happened. I only reported what I was able to see. If Elder Du does not believe me, you should find some other ways to investigate the situation." After Dai Yuan said a few words, her face became quite pale. Using the 1,000 illusion-colored glass art just now had exhausted her greatly. The beautiful woman surnamed Du smiled with embarrassment and did not say anything more. If they had a way to check the situation carefully, how could they have needed to use Dai Yuan's ability? It was more so that since she and Elder Ma had been guarding Colored Glass Mountain when this problem had occurred, they would inevitably have to bear some responsibility. Since it was the fault of the mountain quarrying beast, this issue isn't complicated. What we need to do now is patch the spirit array. Since the barrier underground has been damaged, we need to find some way to repair it remotely or compensate for the breakage. Gongxing, he flashed a thoughtful look on his face but did not ask Dai Yuan any further questions. "Father, since this problem was caused by the mountain quarrying beast, should we still investigate the outsiders currently inside the sect?" Gong Aofu glanced over at Dai Yuan when she asked this question, apparently having heard from Insu Dai a few days ago that Dai Yuan had brought guests back with her. "I'll leave responsibility for this matter to you." Gongxing, he waved his hand before turning around and flying off, his figure quickly disappearing. After the sect master left, many elders could not help secretly breathing a sigh of relief. Elder Ma and Elder Du soon exchanged a glance, the former saying, although according to the investigation by Martial Niece Dai Yuan, the barrier was not damaged by an outsider, something about this situation feels slightly off. Elder Du has been cultivating that mountain quarrying beast for more than 30 years and has never made any mistakes. Yet this time there was an accident. Perhaps there is something more to this incident we are not aware of yet. Everyone who heard this naturally understood that these two were trying to deflect responsibility. If this incident was the result of an outsider's meddling, the responsibility borne by Elder Ma and Elder Du would naturally be lighter. As such, Elder Du immediately took the initiative to launch a thorough investigation. Elder Ma could not feign lack of involvement and naturally cooperated fully with Elder Du to check all the outsiders who had recently arrived in the sect. On the other side, Dai Yuan came over to Gong Aofu with a pale face and bowed politely. "Honored master, disciple will take her leave now. And good, you've worked hard. The damage to your vitality this time has not been light. Before you reach the minor accomplishment stage in the 1,000 illusion-colored glass art, you must avoid using the colored glass divine light as much as possible. Return to 1,000 illusion peak and take a good rest for the next few months. Take this bottle of 100 gauze pills. It should be able to help you restore some of your lost strength." Saying so, Gong Aofu threw a bottle of pills to Dai Yuan. Dai Yuan took it, expressed her gratitude, then departed respectfully. Gong Aofu asking her to take a few months to recuperate was exactly what Dai Yuan wished for. She originally intended to spend several months recovering her strength before attempting to break through to the origin returning realm. While the Colored Glass Sect elders busied themselves repairing the Grand Spirit Array around Colored Glass Mountain, Dai Yuan returned to 1,000 Illusion Peak. Once there, she headed straight to the room where Xianxia had been living. Standing inside this room and looking around, Dai Yuan's beautiful eyes flashed a touch of uncertainty. After a brief hesitation, Dai Yuan pushed her Saint Qi and released the colored glass divine light from her body again. Condensing it into a ball she then sent underground. Closing her eyes, Dai Yuan carefully investigated the situation down below before suddenly shivering slightly as a look of shock appeared on her face, murmuring under her breath in the next month, "It really was you." She had noticed earlier when she was exploring the situation with Colored Glass Mountain that a small tunnel had been dug beneath it. On top of that, the interior of Colored Glass Mountain seemed to have been hollowed out somewhat and a great deal of 1,000 illusion colored glass was missing. However, while following this small underground tunnel, Dai Yuan was shocked to discover that it actually led off towards 1,000 Illusion Peak. Although the entire tunnel had been deliberately covered up, there were still some slight traces left behind. Under the Colored Glass Divine Light's investigation, these traces became quite noticeable. Shocked at the time, Dai Yuan did not dare to report everything she had seen, because she vaguely felt that this matter might have something to do with Yang Kai. At that time, it was just a hunch, but to make sure there were no accidents, she pushed the blame for the incident onto the mountain-quarrying beast. However, Dai Yuan could tell that the mountain-quarrying beast had not been killed by the barrier at all. Instead, it looked as if it had been patted to death by some kind of blunt object. Now that she had returned to Thousand Illusion Peak and investigated, Dai Yuan was immediately able to verify her suspicions. Beneath the room where Yang Kai had been staying, there were identical traces of a small tunnel leading towards Colored Glass Mountain. In recent years, Dai Yuan had only received 2 guests on Thousand Illusion Peak, Yang Kai and Yang Yan, so it only made sense that this was their doing. Dai Yuan did not know what kind of magical method Yang Kai had used to dig a tunnel from here to Thousand Illusion Colored Glass Mountain, then extract a large amount of Thousand Illusion Colored Glass completely undetected. However, she knew if this matter ever came to light, Yang Kai would be hunted down Colored Glass sect. His method of collecting Thousand Illusion Colored Glass without using the Thousand Illusion Colored Glass art was something the elders of the sect would not be willing to let go of. Fortunately, only Dai Yuan cultivated the Thousand Illusion Colored Glass art, so even the sect master wouldn't be able to discover anything was amiss unless the entire Colored Glass Mountain was moved. Having pushed the blame onto the mountain-quarrying beast, Dai Yuan was confident that Yang Kai wouldn't be subject to any doubt. At this point, Dai Yuan felt strangely calm in her heart as she decided to bury this matter permanently and not tell another soul about it. She even took some time to completely erase all traces of the small tunnel deep underground leading to the room where Yang Kai had lived. Yang Kai hadn't thought that Dai Yuan would actually have a method to uncover his little scheme. He thought everything had gone smoothly with no one being the wiser. Before he and Yang Yan left, Yang Kai made the stone puppet destroy the underground tunnel, but both of them had apparently underestimated the power of the Thousand Illusion Colored Glass art and the Colored Glass Divine Light. At this moment, Yang Kai and Yang Yan were already 100,000 kilometers away from Grand Crystal Mountain Range and were flying towards a certain destination. But Yang Kai still felt a slight sense of discomfort, so, with a solemn look, he released his divine sense to investigate the situation nearby. "Why do you seem on edge?" Yang Yan asked with a frown. When the stone puppet returned, it mentioned it encountered a strange monster beast. Although it was only a 6th-order monster beast and the stone puppet instantly patted it to death, the change in Colored Glass Mountain must be related to this. I don't know if that monster beast was able to pass any information back to its master. If it did, we need to pick up our pace. Xiao Xiao killed a monster beast? Yang Yan exclaimed. She had only just learned about this matter. It should be a monster beast specially raised by Colored Glass sect. I don't know what species it was, only that it was able to ignore the barriers under Colored Glass Mountain. It was probably released by the elders of Colored Glass sect to investigate the underground situation. Fortunately, the stone puppet acted swiftly and killed it before it had time to react. Otherwise, I'm afraid things would have become troublesome. Just as he said these words, Yang Kai raised his head and stared up ahead, narrowing his eyes slightly. What happened? Someone is coming this way? Yang Kai squinted as he continued to stare forward, a thoughtful look appearing on his face. Yang Yan also looked in the direction Yang Kai was staring, but she was unable to discover anything. However, knowing that Yang Kai was different from ordinary people, she wasn't surprised that he sensed something she couldn't and simply asked lightly, "Are they after us?" If someone was pursuing them from Colored Glass sect, they should have appeared behind them, so why were they coming from the front? It's In Su Dai. It seems they really are targeting us. Yang Kai smiled bitterly. Yang Yan thought about it for a moment before suddenly saying, Colored Glass sect must have a space array that is connected to the nearby city. Otherwise the situation would be impossible. What should we do? What else can we do? If we try to avoid them, it would be like admitting we're guilty. Yang Kai shook his head. He decided to pretend he hadn't discovered that some people were approaching and prepared to openly meet them, because he found that In Su Dai, while not alone, wasn't accompanied by an origin-returning realm master. Yang Kai wasn't afraid to meet her. At a position a few hundred kilometers ahead, In Su Dai and 2 other third-order Saint King cultivators were flying towards Yang Kai with a faint trace of satisfaction apparent on her face. Before, when she heard the sect master order a thorough investigation of all the visitors to the sect, Sudai rejoiced. After all, she had suffered a small loss when she used her beguiling technique on Xianxia a few days ago, allowing him to take advantage of her and stirring up a great deal of resentment in her heart. Without even mentioning this though, Xianxia being a guest of Dai Yuan alone was enough to stimulate Sudai. She had been worried that she would be able to find an opportunity to make trouble for Xianxia, but such an opportunity had actually presented itself much faster than she anticipated. She was quite interested in what kind of relationship Dai Yuan and Xianxia shared and what purpose she had for inviting Xianxia back to Thousand Illusion Peak this time. However, how could Sudai have imagined that this so-called thorough investigation of all outsiders was just loud thunder with light rain? When she had reported to the elder in charge of this investigation that Xianxia was just a second-order Saint King, they had immediately lost any interest and didn't have any intention of sending out a pursuit team. However, the elder also seemed to understand Sudai had her own motives for this, so they didn't prevent her from taking some people to chase after Xianxia. As such, Sudai recruited 2 relatively strong helpers, then used colored glass sex space array to travel to a city roughly 100,000 kilometers away. Of the 2 cultivators Sudai brought with her, one of them had a burly figure and bulging muscles which he exposed with his sleeveless robes named Ho Jian. This man looked like a great bear that possessed immense physical strength and constantly had a malevolent look upon his face, giving him a cruel impression. But when this menacing man looked at Sudai, his face filled with tenderness, and when he spoke to her, he also deliberately lowered his voice, seemingly afraid he would frighten this beautiful woman. The other man Sudai recruited, named Luo Min, wore refined robes and had a dignified face, giving him an intelligent and handsome appearance. At this moment, a light seemed to flash across the depths of his eyes as he continuously scanned his surroundings, searching for something. With his pair of eyes, nothing within a radius of 100 kilometers could escape his vision. "Junior brother Luo, have you found them yet?" The burly man suddenly glanced over at the other person and asked. "You've been looking for so long yet haven't discovered any clues yet. Are you even trying? What are you implying?" Luo Min heard his burly companion's question and immediately wore a displeased look upon his face. "They left Grand Crystal Mountain Range some time ago, and although we managed to get in front of them, who knows which direction they went? If senior brother Ho doesn't feel relieved, you can try searching for them yourself. I heard that senior brother has recently put a lot of effort into cultivating his divine sense. This is a good opportunity to see the results of your training. It seems master even rewarded senior brother with a bottle of clear spirit pills. So presumably senior brother's divine sense is much stronger than before." "Yes." Listening to the ridicule in this junior brother Luo's voice, Ho Jian's face immediately became gloomy. His secret art didn't pay much attention to the growth of his soul, and it wasn't an exaggeration to say that it was his biggest shortcoming. As his strength had grown, this shortcoming had become more and more obvious, and some time ago, he had been forced to start single-mindedly cultivating his spiritual energy. Now that this sore spot had been pointed out by his junior brother, and in front of the beauty he was pursing no less, Ho Jian couldn't help feeling annoyed. The 2 of them, as fellow brothers, usually didn't have any kind of friction between them, but now, in front of Sudai, a kind of rivalry inevitably arose. Seeing the face of the burly Ho Jian became dark, as if his anger was about to erupt. Sudai quickly said, "2 senior brothers, please don't quarrel. This time I asked both of you to come out because I needed to borrow both of your strengths. Senior brother Lu cultivates the far-sight spirit eye technique which is necessary to find the people we're looking for. But after finding them, senior brother Ho's strength is necessary to capture them. 2 senior brothers both know about the incident with the sect's most precious treasure, the colored glass mountain, and understand that the elders suspect that it may have been caused by an outsider. Yes? That man surnamed Yang leaving right at this moment is clearly suspicious, so we absolutely cannot let him escape." Sudai didn't show any annoyance at being competed over by these 2 men, even seemingly enjoying them clamoring for her attention. But right now, tracking down Xianxia was her top priority, so she spoke to persuade them. Hearing this, Ho Jian's expression became somewhat more serious, seemingly taking Yin Su Dai at her word and asking, "Then, was that incident really some kind of plot that Brat set up?" "I don't know." Yin Su Dai smiled and shook her head. "But this matter is of great importance. Anyone who is even slightly suspicious can't be let off. We must capture him and bring him back to the sect elders. Afterwards, it will be up the elders to decide if he is guilty or innocent." By saying it was all the elders' orders, how could these two men refuse? However, Yin Su Dai's rhetoric was only able to confuse the muscle-headed Ho Jian, while the Luo Min thought otherwise. He clearly knew there was more going on here, but he didn't dare expose this truth. For him, looking for someone was just a trifling matter. The important thing was that doing so allowed him to please Yin Su Dai. Good, junior brother Luo, look again carefully. Once you find that little brat, senior brother will make sure to capture him." "Humph. Daring to have ideas about our colored glass mountain. I must see if this brat has the guts." Declaring so, Ho Jian flashed a terrifying grin. Just as Luo Min was about to make another snide comment, he suddenly glanced in a certain direction and shouted, "I found them!" "Where?" Yin Su Dai wore a look of happiness and hurriedly asked. "That way, they're coming towards us." Luo Min pointed his finger and said with confidence, "It's exactly as junior sister described. A young man and a woman with the woman wearing all black robes. It's definitely them." "So it seems." Yin Su Dai smirked. "Interesting. They're actually coming right to us." Ho Jian struck his chest and shouted, "Senior brother will go on ahead. Junior brother Luo, you protect junior sister. This won't take long." When Luo Min heard this, he knew that his senior brother was trying to grab some credit. After all, he had been the one to discover them, so if he went forward to capture them now, Ho Jian would have come along for nothing. Nevertheless, Luo Min felt it was a good opportunity to enjoy some time alone with Yin Su Dai, so he didn't bother objecting, smiling and saying, "Senior brother Ho is still so impatient. Good junior sister, let's take our time. Presumably, by the time we arrive, senior brother Ho will have finished up everything. After all, how could a trivial second-order Saint King raise any fuss?" Yin Su Dai's eyes flashed slightly, seemingly thinking of something, but quickly nodded as if nothing happened and said, "That's true. Fortunately, I asked senior brother Luo to come along this time. Otherwise, it would have been quite troublesome to find these two. Junior sister is far too polite. If you ever have a need for senior brother's help in the future, all you need to do is ask and senior brother will surely not refuse. Junior sister's Myriad Crystal Peak is also not far from our Swift Bird Peak. So if another day junior sister has time, it would be senior brother's honor to receive her. Senior brother promises to provide the finest of entertainment should junior sister decide to visit." Luo Min took this chance to send out an invitation, expressing as much admiration and affection as he dared to. Hearing this, Yin Su Dai let out a giggle and gave him a perfunctory answer. Although Luo Min understood this, just seeing Yin Su Dai smile at him and being able to listen to her silver bell-like laughter was enough for him to become somewhat absent-minded. In the next instant, he shook his head slightly and focused his blurry vision as he felt a chill in his heart, understanding that this junior sister of his had once again made progress in her beguiling technique. He had also heard that as long as Grandmaster Xiao finished refining an origin-condensing pill for her, Yin Su Dai would be able to break through to the origin-returning realm. Now, it seemed those rumors were true.